Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fighting the Void. I, of course, am Eric or Ginger Man Editor, however you like to do it. You can follow the podcast at Fighting Void and email us at fightingvoid@gmail.com. And, of course, back after a little break is my wonderful co-host, Krystle.
I have no idea what I just did there.
I don't know what's going on there. You might have to excuse Krystle a little bit. I don't know what you did on a break, but clearly it was fun. Anyway.
I partied with the dwarves. Yeah. It was
and boy, will we get there. So anyway, we've been talking about doing this Hobbit debate for a little while now. In fact, it was one of our very first ideas for this podcast because one of us is very pro Hobbit, or at least has been. Another has been very not pro Hobbit.
And
take a wild guess as to which one is which. Krystle, show off your mug.
Show off my smug.
Yes, that's probably the more appropriate one to show off.
Yeah.
So, now I'm gonna go ahead and preface the whole thing, and we're doing this largely because we've done a few serious episodes in a row, so it's time to lighten it up a little bit and just talk about something that's kind of fun and, let's face it, doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So that's why we're here. And I'm going to go ahead and preface anything that I say. I love Tolkien. I love the books. I love The Hobbit. Fantastic. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and throw a little bit of my thoughts right away, and then I'll turn it over to Krystle. I am definitely the one that's not so pro. Put it that way. And when I first watched them, now I'm going to be fair, full disclosure here. Now, when I first watched them, I honestly thought that I wasn't really judging it compared to the books. Like, oh my gosh, they changed this, they changed that, yada, yada, yada. I wasn't letting that bother me too much. Rewatching them, because honestly, this is only the second time that I've watched, I think, any of the movies. And I'm like, no, you know what? I was letting that at least subconsciously affect my overall view of the movies. You know, and there were a lot of changes. And it wasn't something where I was like, oh, I should have done that, but it annoyed me. So it sort of instantly put me in a place where it's like, okay, I'm already annoyed. So anything I don't like about this is going to upset me more than perhaps it would otherwise. Are there still lots of things I don't like about the movies? Yes. As I was just getting into a little bit we almost started the debate without going on air. Krystle fortunately reined me in and said, hey, save the fire for later.
we kind of did. And then I looked at the podcast and it's like, okay, Ginger, we have to actually have people listen into this, not just not just us.
So now that we're actually getting into it a little bit here, feel free to join us on the YouTube chat. We're already joined by Lord Magma 15 there. And yep.
I know who that is.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay. You'll have to.
There, dude.
What's that?
Lucas.
Oh.
We had, for those of you who don't remember,
Sneaky
or
devil.
if you haven't seen it, we had Lucas on the immigration podcast, which was 2 weeks ago.
Yes, indeed. And excuse me, hopefully he'll be coming back in the very near future for our follow-up episode.
Yeah.
But all right, so you can follow us there, or you can go ahead and hit us up on Twitter. Again, that's at Fighting Void on the Twitters. So, Krystle, your initial thoughts. Well, and feel free to roll into a general thing of why you think these movies are good, why people should go and watch them.
Okay. Well, to preface this, and people prepare your tomatoes, most likely. I'm like Ginger. I haven't read the books yet. Yes, I know the horror. give me a break. I'm just
That's
now.
horror. In fact, this may actually invalidate anything you say.
Wow. But yeah. So I haven't read the books yet. I plan to. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But so I'm going into the movies without any what's the word?
Presuppositions. No preconditioning, nothing.
Yeah. So going into it, I didn't even want to watch the movies in the first place because I didn't think I'd like them.
Really?
Yeah. My doctor made me sit down and watch it, the first one, and I watched the first one, and I watched the first one. It just, I fell in love, dude. I fell in love with everything, but
especially Richard Armitage. But that's
okay.
you were gonna play the card. I was.
Besides Armitage's wonderful performance in the movies, there's just something about the Hobbit trilogy that has a certain magic to it for me whenever I see it, and I don't know, it just, there's something about it that really just, it's the universe and it's the characters and the atmosphere. It just allow the things for me, they just click together and really work, even though they definitely do have their flaws. And in this, I don't want to say second viewing because I've definitely seen them all more than twice, but in this last rewatching of them, I started really seeing more of where they fall, where they falter, and where they really do hit things well and on a high note.
So maybe it's safe to say, actually, that we sort of actually moved a little bit in each other's directions.
We actually did, yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to do that, Ginger. We're supposed to be polar opposites.
Well, I mean, we can play it up for the camera if you want.
we could pretend.
Mm-hmm.
Hardcore, yes. Hardcore, no. We can do that.
I mean, we can totally do that. And as we move on past the first movie, I will get more hardcore now.
Oh yeah. And the first movie, I'm so much hardcore yes, and then the other ones are like, I'm still yes, but I
You can see the no.
No, well, to be honest, I've always seen what I see now. It just, I always ignored it because of like, Hobbit. But now that I'm out of the rose glasses, it's like, okay, yeah, they're not perfect, but I still love them.
Okay, all right. So let's go. First movie. All right. So, The Unexpected Journey. What do we have? What do you have to say about that one? That is, or should I lay out my critique first and then you can defend it? How do you want to roll here?
I can go first.
Oh, go ahead.
So with the first one, I'd say out of all three movies, the first one's the strongest one out of all of them, and I really
agreed.
What I found rewatching it, what I really loved about it is the magic I found in it was the fact that it really felt like a story being told, and not just because, you know, they have in the beginning older Bilbo narrating and like writing his book and whatnot. It just, there's something about it where it actually feels like you're being told this story, and that's from the little bit I started reading of The Hobbit. That's how The Hobbit reads too, like a story being told to you, and that's the feeling I get with the first one. And actually another thing too I found was along with it feeling like a story being told, in the in the flashbacks of like when you're looking at like when you're being told backstory, like what happened with Erebor, what happened with, what was his name, Thorin's father.
Oh, yeah. Oh gosh, was it Thor or Thran? I get them confused. I'll be 100% honest.
Thor, son of either Thor. Point is, when they're doing flashbacks like that, it almost has like a, it really feels like a fairy tale or like a idealized legend or whatever you're being told. But then when you go into present day, and you actually meet like Thorin, and you get to meet all the dwarves and whatnot. It's what I found, and I quite like too, is that idealism kind of gets shattered. Even in the first movie, you start seeing more of like how Thorin actually is and how things actually are, and it's not. It's still this great big adventure, but it's not this idealized great big adventure that you read in fairy tale books. It's actually like it's going to be dangerous for Bilbo to go on it. And so that's one of the main things that I found with the first one. Really loved it.
I'll definitely go ahead and pretty much agree with you there. I was really excited when I first found out that they were going to include stuff with Azanulbazar. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I hope. Stuff like that from the appendices and everything. I was like super excited. I was like, yes, mine that for everything it's worth. Thank you. And when I heard that Azog was going to be in it, and I was like, yes, this is great. And I was a little disappointed. I was like, wait, what? Why is Azog alive? What? But again, it's like, okay, go ahead and separate the books from the movie. Okay. All right, now, again, with all that background and everything, I think they did that all right. Although it seemed to drag on and on and on. I think there was way too much exposition in this. Compare it with the prologues that they did in the Lord of the Ring movies, and that one they covered. They gave you everything you needed to know, covering the highlights of like thousands of years of history in a matter of minutes, like just a handful of minutes. This one, it goes on much longer, covering much less time. And it's just like, can we move on? It's like, okay, I get it. And part of it is because it wasn't necessary. It was two different main elements they were trying to bring together in this one, in all the prologue exposition, with Azanulbazar. So you get you get that part with the dwarves, and you get Smaug. It's all with the dwarves, but it's told seemingly in a much more disconnected fashion, at least to my mind.
Okay.
Whereas opposed to like just a continuing narratives, like here's your highlights, and here we go. So right away, that kind of set me off. I was like, but all right, not a huge deal. And I'm gonna agree with you that the first one is definitely the strongest of the three movies. In fact, when it came out, you may even be able to find videos of it where I'm defending it from its harsher critics. That said, there were definitely things that still kind of left me about it. And that is, a lot of it had to do with the fact that Jackson was trying to thread this needle in between the Hobbit book, reading it solely as a kid's book, and the Lord of the Rings movies. He's trying to like thread a needle between the two different tones. And I don't think that he successfully struck a balance. And I don't even know that he should have tried to strike a balance. I think since it was these are clearly Lord of the Rings prequels, clearly connected to those movies, should have just went ahead and just gone for it, go full on, Lord of the Rings tone and everything, and just keep that consistent throughout. Now, I am going to defend this choice there, especially with the first movie, just a little bit. Like I can see part of what he was doing because the tone shifts throughout the whole trilogy. And that is not unlike the book. The book actually, by the time you get from the beginning of The Hobbit with the unexpected party, with dwarves singing songs and tossing plates and bending forks and so on and so forth, by the time you actually get to the Battle of Five Armies, it feels a lot more like you're reading a Lord of the Rings prequel which of course it wasn't. It was the first book, obviously, for those who for some reason don't know this. It feels a lot more like you're reading a Lord of the Rings book than it does a Hobbit book at the beginning. But the way Tolkien does it, it's so gradual. The way it moves it, the way it develops that, you almost don't notice until you stop to think about it. With the movies, it was more noticeable, and again, and part of that's because it's visual.
Yeah.
And it's visual, it's audible, all of that. And I think he should have just gone with a consistent tone right away. I think that would have helped.
Now, see, I disagree with you there.
Okay.
I'd say that the shift in tone was gradual, because you see it even in the first movie. There's like the beginning is more light and almost kind of childish, and then it kind of gets more darker and grimmer when it gets to like the goblins and Gollum and the Battle of Azog, however. And then it gets lighter again because there's hope. They see the mountain. They have a great big of hope. And then the next movie, they're back to like they're dealing with stuff, so it's kind of getting darker. What I'd say is why it doesn't feel like it's so gradual is because they don't necessarily pull it off well.
Yeah.
Like the steps, like the parts are there of it to be gradual, but it doesn't feel like it's gradual because it just doesn't seem. There's something about it where it's still missing that one thing where for it to really be pulled off.
Right, and it's always hard to put your finger on exactly what that thing is.
Yeah, because like I said, if you really think about it, the parts are there that it's a gradual shift, but there's something about it where it's like you can see where the shifts happen rather than it just. I've been racking my brain over it while watching all three movies, and it's like they have all the parts of it to be pulled off, but there's just that one thing that's missing for it to actually be pulled off that I can't quite put my finger on.
You know, this isn't a precise answer to that question, but I think whatever's behind that difference is something of a modern, cynical lack of seriousness sensibility that I think might be might be informing Jackson and crew. And it's the same sensibility that interpreted pipeweed in the Lord of the Rings movies as weed, as opposed to tobacco. You know, they did that so they could have some jokey fun with it. Even though, read the books, it's not weed. But that's the way Jackson chose to go. And I think it's the same mentality that informed that decision that's informing a lot of the general tone of the Hobbit movies. And this got a little bit of discussion when the movies were new, because it was shown most in the way they treated the violence in the movies. There's plenty of violence in the Lord of the Rings movies, and it felt actually much harsher than it actually was. It felt more visceral because they were taking it seriously. In the Hobbit movies, it's actually much more violent, but they're treating it for a cartoonish effect.
Yeah, I really noticed that, especially with the third movie. And it's like, third movie, I still love you, but by Hades, why did you have to do this with all the battles and the fighting and whatnot? It's like it's a big war going on, and you can't stop thinking about the cartoonish behavior of Thorn's cousin that comes in on the ram, and that one troll that has like those spike balls for feet walking around, and why and actually I think because there was something I watched where someone was mocking how that scene in the third movie where the stones are falling down and Legolas is finding a way to run up them somehow, and someone was mocking and someone was mocking that, and I was thinking back to like the Lord of the Rings, where Legolas kind of does something similarly. I don't want to say ridiculous, but kind of the same realm of action with like the mammoth in the Lord of the Rings. And I think the reason why it's so people mock it in the Hobbit ones because they're just this cartoony aura of all the fighting and whatnot to where.
Well, and it was much more over the top in the Hobbit.
Yeah.
You know, was the taking down the whole mammoth a little ridiculous? Okay, maybe, but the way they did it and everything, it wasn't near. It was like maybe.
Maybe. Well, that's my point. Because they have a different aura in the Hobbit.
Yeah.
It just doesn't come across the same way.
Yeah. But okay, going back to the first movie because we'll definitely get to Legolas. I promise you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, I know what you're hinting at. Okay.
Oh, there's so many things. I haven't hinted at everything.
Oh, I was just thinking of the one thing. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. Oh no, there's more.
Oh boy.
There's more. All right. So, with again, for the most part, I don't have a whole lot of critique of the first movie, to be honest. I did not like the unexpected party. I thought the lead-in was just like rather, again, it felt like it took a little too long to get there. But what really got me was I thought the actual thing with where they're flinging the plates around and everything, I thought that was just too crazy, too over the top.
Oh,
you know, when they started bouncing plates off their elbows, I'm like, no, I'm check it out. Wake me up when the music's done.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Okay,
go right ahead.
That scene is a lovable scene. Don't you dare.
All right.
Dude, I have that song as a ringtone for some people on my phone.
I'm not critiquing the song. I'm critiquing the scene.
But the song is part of the scene as a whole. Now, see, the scene I kind of am like, why is when they're all drinking beer so messily and it's like gaining the beat. That one I'm like, that one and the burping. I'm just like, why?
Establishing the dwarves is significantly rougher than poor Bilbo is used to dealing with.
Yeah, like I get they're establishing how the dwarves are compared to hobbits like Bilbo, but at the same time it's kind of like that's kind of gross. I think I didn't see that. Then again, they're dwarves, so what am I saying? So.
Yeah, I mean that's what they're supposed to do. I was 100% okay with that, but then again, I'm a guy, so that's if you think that's a gross exaggeration from how we are when we're just by ourselves, you're wrong. It's an exaggeration, but not a gross one. So, as far as anything else, any of my critiques with the first movie, a lot of it. First of all, I kind of agree with the people who said so. Gandalf picked Bilbo because Bilbo climbed trees and stuff as a kid. It's like I know exactly what they were doing there. I know they were trying to establish Bilbo as yes, hobbits are unnaturally boring for the most part, and Bilbo is the fact that Bilbo seemed like a normal kid when he was a kid is proof that he was way more adventurous than your average hobbit. Yet they tried to give a reason they tried to show the reason that Bilbo was picked, and the execution didn't quite come off. It almost would have been better to just leave it as Gandalf picked him because he had a hunch.
They even say why Gandalf picked him though. It's because Bilbo gave him courage.
Yeah, sorta. I don't think that's the reason why he necessarily picked him. I think it really did come down to a hunch at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, he was taking a chance on Bilbo. But if you think about it, Bilbo, even when he's giving Gandalf a hard time and turning him down, Bilbo, you can see, is kind of like, I really do kind of want to go on this adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so there's that, and then there's the fact that Bilbo does give Gandalf courage, and really, you can just chalk it up to, like it happens in real life sometimes. There's just something where you have a feeling someone is capable of big things.
No, and I agree with it. My argument is that they should have just left it at that instead of trying to add in some other additional reasoning, like Gandalf, saw him being just a touch more adventurous than your average Hobbit kid when Bilbo was young. It should have just been left at, I got a hunch about this one, and so that's why he's coming with you, even though he totally seems ill-suited for the task.
I'm going to disagree with you there, but
that's minor. And then otherwise, my critiques with the first one, other than obvious things like CGI Azog didn't look very good. He looked actually rather bad.
Yeah, they were actually
Goblin Town.
Oh, but real quick,
Goblin Town and a lot of things that happened there.
Real quick though, with Azog, when you watch the behind the scenes, they actually did have issues with Azog.
As far as
CGI, I can't remember exactly what the issues were, but I know they were having a difficult time with Azog, so that's probably why Azog doesn't completely look right. Cause
they, for whatever reason, Weta wasn't able to pull that one off as well as they would have liked. Goblin Town, the Goblin King.
Oh boy.
Okay, I'm sorry, scrotum neck. I just no. Just no. That whole design for that character, just no.
What do you expect from a goblin, though? I mean, it's a goblin.
But does it have to be scrotum neck?
But it's a goblin.
I don't care. I don't care that it's a goblin. It's got a freaking scrotum neck, and it's weird. And otherwise, then you get into the all of a sudden physics don't work anymore. Well, again, kind of like the flinging the plates around scene. It's like, why does everybody survive falls from hundreds of feet? Why? It's like Bilbo looks like he's falling into the abyss. And he just hits the rock, slides, and he's fine.
Actually, that popped into my head this last time around watching it, and then I instantly realized, I really don't care.
And that's fine. You can choose to be like, you know what? Disbelief, I'm just going to hang you up over here. And you can do that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But recognize you're doing it and that you need to do it to not just be thoroughly annoyed.
Well, generally, when you like something, it's easy to do. That's what a lot of people point out with certain. I can't remember who it was I was listening to, but with any movie and with anything, you're more willing to suspend your disbelief when it seems, even though it doesn't quite fit, it kind of makes sense within the world. B, you like said thing. So it's not really going to bother you as much if something...
Right. But this is a thing that shouldn't fit within said world. Because one of the things that I was actually just discussing this with a friend of mine last night, not in relation to this movie, but just in general. I'm willing to accept almost any premise you throw at me. Mutants, aliens, what's that?
People being sent to purgatory.
Right. And I'll for the sake of the story, I'll accept almost any premise you throw at me. But past that premise, unless you give me some reason to believe otherwise, everything else in that world works the way it normally does, including gravity.
Okay.
So it's like Star Wars, for example. Again, maybe with you this isn't the best example, but it's a good one. You want to tell me there's people that can use this thing called the Force and have laser swords? Fine, I know that up front. I either buy it or I don't watch it. Plain and simple. But, well, if you tell me that, that young kid Anakin can suddenly can sort of race half a lap behind everybody else, catch up to almost everyone instantly, and then suddenly can't get by the rider except for when he remembers to flip a couple of switches and get a sudden burst of speed 3 different times, I'm throwing the flag.
That's it.
I'm totally, or that he can fly. Same kid can fly into a hangar and randomly launch off a torpedo, and from the hangar there is a direct channel to the central reactor core of the ship and blow the whole thing up. I am throwing the flag. I know you probably don't know what I'm talking about. Trust me on this, though. Okay. Everyone who's seen the Star Wars prequels knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, so gravity doesn't work in the Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
Not the same way. I mean, granted, the hobbits have a small mass, so maybe it's like when an ant falls from 500 feet, he's fine. It's just like that. Except, no. From there, I have 3 essential critiques.
Okay.
One is it's 2 of them are just on things that aren't capitalized on. Oh gosh, I totally forgot about Radagast.
Oh, Radagast.
Radagast is his own special kind of. Don't like it at all.
Radagast is awesome.
No, you know what? We're going to go with Radagast right now. Radagast is... A lot of people have compared him to Jar Jar initially. I won't go that far. He's not as bad as Jar Jar Binks. But he's pretty freaking bad. Like, just the way they played him as this total doofus with bird poop on the side of his head, screaming about Sebastian the cuddly hedgehog.
Okay, you did not just go. Did you just go after the hedgehog?
I just went right after that hedgehog. Let the darkness take him. That's what I say.
How dare!
How dare I, indeed?
How dare you? That hedgehog, the best hedgehog ever.
You know what? He might in fact be the best hedgehog ever. He's still a hedgehog. This is not a high bar.
Wow. Anyway, no, I wouldn't call. I'd say Radagast is kooky.
Yes, unnecessarily so. And I'm willing to give a pass to the rabbit sled.
I love the rabbits.
Ross Goble rabbits. Okay. Sure. But, I guess. But I was done with Radagast when he when he decided to draw off the orcs while everybody else made it to the Hidden Valley of Rivendell. And it's like, it's a scene out of friggin' Scooby-Doo. It's like, they're running one way. Oh, look! Seriously, Radagast, instead of just going in a straight line down the friggin' road, is like, oh, we're going to go here, and we're going to go there. It's like, I'm going to actually make sure that the orcs stay in the area so they might have a chance of seeing you and then hunt you down and kill you. It seems like that's more what he was doing. He is the worst person to provide a distraction that I could possibly imagine.
I don't know.
Defend that. That was one of the worst choices in all 3 movies, actually.
I don't know, man. If we want to talk about bad choices for things, shoot, what was the scene? There was a. Oh, you want to talk about? Okay, I'm going to go over to the second movie for a second.
Okay.
I want to talk about bad decisions. Granted, he leads it because he's the king and like he's not gonna have anyone else lead it. But having Thorin, I lost my way to Bilbo's Hobbit hole twice, Oakenshield, lead them through Mirkwood where they have to stay on the path.
Yeah, that may not be the best idea.
I'd say because for those of you, if you pay attention, it's very subtle. It's very subtle, and you question if you see it, but if you pay attention, they get off the path in Mirkwood right at the beginning of Mirkwood.
Yeah, like within about 5 minutes, they're like, I don't know, what do we do now? And it wasn't like they got like we're hungry, we're starving, we need food. Like again, it's a book comparison. It was just they just lost the path.
No, not even 5 minutes. 5 steps into walking into Mirkwood, Thorin moves away a bunch of leaves, thinks he sees the path going this way, which it doesn't, and then he's like, path goes this way. Thorin, you lost your way to Bilbo's Hobbit hole twice. You should.
They have street signs in the Shire.
Thorin, just sit this one out, buddy. You may be the king, but you are terrible at maps, my friend.
Clearly, not only terrible at maps, but we'll save that for later too. But yeah, okay, yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot to bring up freaking Radagast, and then the conversation that Gandalf goes to Dol Guldur and everything. It comes back with this Morgul blade. Okay, fine, cool. But that's one of like 3 things that is almost never. There's 3 things in The Hobbit that aren't really capitalized on well in the first movie. One is bringing that Morgul blade. It seems like that blade in and of itself is significant. They never really do anything with it. It just becomes like some indicate, and it's kind of like, why should that surprise you? It's Dol Guldur. You know, this was it's like you knew this was an evil guy hideout. Could just be a relic from way back in the day. It's not like that thing has a manufacturer by date on it or anything like that. And you would actually still expect it to be old. And then there's, and not to mention, there were all sorts of evil bad guys there already. I don't know why they didn't just take Gandalf then. Or Radagast. Did Radagast actually go there first?
Yeah,
and he was the one with the blade. Yeah, why didn't they just take him then? I mean, seriously, that would have been.
I think they tried to, didn't they? Because I know Radagast gets attacked while there.
I don't remember clearly.
No, he does. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, fair. I withdraw that then. But still, they never really capitalized on anything with a blade, and Saruman's the leader of this group. Of the White Council. But it's readily clear no one actually likes him. No one really, certainly Gandalf and Galadriel don't trust him. So you should be asking yourself, so why is he the leader?
Ginger, a little secret. A lot of times there's leaders that people don't like, but somehow they still become leader. Just look at the
how did he become the leader?
I don't remember.
It's not addressed in the movies. But it's a valid question. It's like nobody likes you, nobody trusts you. It's literally, and again in the movie, it's apparently just them and Radagast. Radagast isn't even really included. So it's like, how did everybody decide you're the leader? Why? Did you just walk up and say, I'm the leader, and nobody else wanted the job?
Okay, CinemaSins, Jeremy.
I am just saying, it's a valid question to ask. Why? And the main reason I ask it the way that I do isn't because of a book comparison. It's because it's a little inconsistent with Gandalf's attitude towards Saruman in Fellowship of the Ring. when he tells Frodo, "Hey, you got to take off because that thing is the One Ring. I'm going to go see the leader of my order, Saruman. He'll know what to do." It is clear in that moment that Gandalf completely and utterly trusts Saruman and is willing to bring him news of the One Ring. And this one, in the Unexpected Journey, which obviously takes place considerably before, he's having super secret telepathic conversations with Galadriel behind his back.
Now, see, I would argue that while it's difficult for trust to be regained, but I would argue that maybe Gandalf didn't trust him at first, but by the end of the Hobbit trilogy, because we do see that Saruman does arrive to help them fight off the bad guys.
This is true.
So I would argue that maybe Gandalf didn't trust him at first, but then his trust was regained.
Okay. I mean that's a defensible way to look at it. I'm not sure I agree, but fair enough. I'd be willing to let that go without too much of a fight. Put it that way. But then, okay, so there's the blade, and then there's the Arkenstone.
Oh yeah.
The Arkenstone, the way they do it is, it's unclear exactly how we're supposed to treat the Arkenstone, and I honestly don't think they ever quite clear it up. Does it have magical corrupting powers? Is it a magic stone in and of itself? Is it just the symbol of dwarvish kingship? So on and so forth. Is it all of this?
Right.
I don't think they ever really capitalize or land on how we're supposed to see the Arkenstone necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, not quite.
To me, it was always clear that it was more of it was this precious stone, and so it's very valuable, and they highly value it, and that's such a king's stone. Mm-hmm. It also acts as a symbolism of like a source of like the dragon.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought that was obvious.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For me, that was always clear. I never had a doubt or question about it.
What throws me off is the way it's portrayed visually. Is the way it is portrayed as, frankly, looking like a magical object with the way the light, like it's not just reflecting from within the stone. It's actually like this almost little rainbow cloud around it. And that's where I'm like, okay, why? And then there are lots of times throughout the trilogy where it is described as having a corrupting influence in and of itself. Almost like a certain ring we all know and love. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, just...
Now, two things for that.
Yes, please.
I have two kind of arguments for that. First one, I can kind of see what you mean about the appearance of it, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, because the elven white jewels, they kind of have the same appearance too, but there's really no question about whether or not they're magical. They just kind of have that appearance. Second, is everyone referring to the stone as the Arkenstone as having corrupting abilities? Are we supposed to take that literally, or are we supposed to take that as that's how the dwarves have begun to view it, and for something that happens either symbolically or metaphorically with the corruption of their kings, that's because we see this in history all the time. Something has a metaphorical or symbolic effect on something, but then people end up turning it into this magical thing because it seems to do this thing to multiple people, when really it's how people end up taking. And you actually see that not just with the Arkenstone, but with other things too, like with the way the dwarves tell the story of their homeland and the battle with Azog and Smaug and the the prophecy of the dwarves returning, and you see that kind of treatment of things throughout the whole thing, and we just, whether there are certain things that are supposed to be taken literally, like with the One Ring, and things that are probably not supposed to be taken literally with like how they view the Arkenstone.
Let's go ahead and table that for a minute, because the same theme comes up again in the second movie, in Desolation of Smaug. So let's table that for just a couple of minutes, and circle back to it. Another one is the necklace that Thranduil is so enamored of.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, we don't get there yet. That's to the second movie, where that becomes an issue for me. The other one was actually Thorin's oaken shield, and what gets me about that is the way, when the eagles carry him away, it falls from his hand, and they focus on it for just a second, and it's just like, why? I can think of all kinds of reasons why it's significant enough to focus on, but the thing is that it's never brought up again. That's what bothers me. It's not just that they focused on it, because I could think of reasons to do that. The point is that they never focus on it again. It's never mentioned. There's no reason given to focus on it the way they did. It's just like, it's probably important to him, so we're going to show it for a sec. And it's really bad that fell off, but he's never going to talk about it, ever.
Is there really a reason to bring it back up, though? Because I feel like that's...
Well, the thing is, they focused on it. To me, that means there should be a reason to bring it back up. There has to be some reason, narratively, why they decided to focus on that dropping from his arm the way they did. And it just never goes anywhere.
But it's probably a reason that's meant to be interpreted by the viewer and not spelled out by the movie.
It doesn't need to be spelled out necessarily. I mean, like I said, I can think of reasons why. I certainly can. But it's just an odd thing, because if it is that significant, if it is something so significant that I, as a viewer, am supposed to be thinking about it, you would think it would also be significant enough for Thorne to mention it, or someone to mention it.
No,
For Balin to be like, dude, you lost your oaken shield. Thorin's like, yeah, I'm still Thorin. I'm still a badass. Here we go.
Now, see, I find it odd if they brought it up again.
What's that?
Now, see, I think it'd be odd if they brought it up again.
Really?
Yeah. Because I feel like it's just supposed to be a thing for the first movie. His I don't want to say attachment, but because the oaken shield is like a piece from that battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I feel like while he's not completely over the battle in the future movies, he's over enough to where like the last piece of the battle has gone away and moving on to the next stage of conflict.
Yeah, and again, I think that's a good reason. I mean, he's like part of him shedding the past, and it's also look at it as the first part of him starting to lose himself, actually, which he totally does inside the Lonely Mountain, as a result of the quest. You could definitely give it those sorts of interpretations, and those would all be fine, and be internally consistent.
But see, that's why I think it'd be odd if it came back up, because even though it has that significance, it's not as significant as like the Arkenstone or the One Ring. So I feel like it'd be kind of no reason to bring up the oaken shield again.
The thing is, I don't think there should have been a reason to focus on it the way they did. That's what bothers me. That makes it seem like it is significant. Obviously, not on the level of the Arkenstone, but still significant enough for them to, give it an unusual amount of screen time for a piece of wood.
Well, I mean, that's not the first time they focus on it either.
No, it's not. But again, my primary issue is that they gave it that focus, and then it's like it's never acknowledged that it's gone. I mean, they focus specifically on the loss of it, and then it's never acknowledged. That seems inconsistent to me. Not that the needs to be spelled out for the viewer, but that at least one character should care.
I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The one other thing is going with the whole Gandalf finding another flipping moth to send after the eagles. I'm going to go ahead and quote paraphrase more likely, the Tolkien professor on this one. It says, like, if your goal is to do away with the impression that the Eagles are Middle-earth's Deus Ex Machina, that they are Middle-earth's taxi service, this is exactly what you should not do. You should not have him do exactly the same thing that we saw him do in the Lord of the Rings movies. Not just, don't have him do the exact same thing and then have the Eagles magically show up to the rescue that way. No. It should just be like, in the books, they saw what was going on and they're like, oh, we don't exactly love dwarves, but we really hate goblins, so let's rescue these dwarves, essentially.
I like how every time you're like, I just have a few critiques of the first movie, and then
I come up with more.
You just keep adding more and more.
I know. I'm sorry. It's like, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, gosh, yeah, there were a few things, and I still stand by that the first one is overall all right. And I'm going to go ahead and say something that I really liked. That is a drastic change from the book, and that actually is that battle at the tree at the end. I didn't like how slow all the other dwarves were to jump into the fight, but I loved, first of all, that scene where Thorin gets up and he's like, all right, let's go. I'm like, that was a totally badass shot. I don't care who you are, that was a really good shot. And it was a pretty good fight. And then I loved the way Bilbo just ran in there to save Thorin's bacon.
Yeah,
that was great.
That part.
I mean, it wasn't a drastic change from the book. Yes, by golly, it was. Because Bilbo didn't really step up and come to everyone's rescue in the book until Mirkwood, rescuing them from the spiders. But this was really good the way they did it, and they wound up using the spider scene to show something else with Bilbo, which I thought worked out all right.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that the way that ended was really good, and the way Thorin finally came around with regards to Bilbo at the end when the Eagles dropped them off at the Carrick, that was great. That was really good. I have no complaints about that at all. That was well executed. So, again, there were things that it was kind of cool seeing a happy Elrond instead of grumpy Elrond. And all of that, all of that was pretty cool. The depiction of the Shire was, of course, fantastic, beautifully done. Everyone's performances were very good. No, I have no complaints about any of that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Especially in this first movie, even the dude playing Radagast played what they wanted well.
Yeah.
And incidentally, Mr. Magma there kind of brought up as like this more has to do with the directors and screenwriters. I completely agree. It's not. I don't put blame like that necessarily on the actor. I blame it on the director.
Yeah.
And the directors and the writers, because the actor's job is to give the director what he wants.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So if Joel Schumacher tells George Clooney to be a friendly Batman, then by golly, that's what George Clooney's supposed to give him.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, More of your thoughts.
Well,
Incidentally, we've already been on air for about an hour.
yeah. I was. You beat me to it. I was just about to say that we've spent our hour talking about the first one.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else was the first one. Let me look at my notes here. So some of the similar things you brought up too, like tying in like what the appendix had, and also tying it into the Lord of the Rings. So there was a lot of added stuff for that, and it's also why it ended up being so many movies because they were trying to include all that stuff. Let me see what else. The only other thing I could think of was out of all the movies, I think the first one dealt with tension the best and like building it up and whatnot. And you want to talk about a very good scene in the first one that isn't like one of the more humorous ones or whatever. It's or like the ending or whatnot. Basically, another good scene. It has to be the riddles in the dark scene where Bilbo is with Gollum and.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, that was very well done.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think I've. For someone who loves The Hobbit, I didn't say much, but that's pretty much all I got for the first one.
Well, I mean, and there is a lot to like there, especially the riddles in the dark scene. The whole thing was done very, very well. Andy Serkis was, again, as always, brilliant. I've never seen a performance of his that I did not like.
Yeah. All the dwarves, even if not all of them spoke, and you can argue some of their personalities were cartoonish, at least all 13 of them had their own personalities.
Yes, they did. And that's tough to pull off. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, it is. It really is. You know, because they got 13, and it's like if you look at I don't know if it is in the book, but I've seen bits of like the cartoon Hobbit movie, and the way the dwarves are done, you really only tell the difference between them by their name and by the different cloak colors.
Exactly, and in fact, I think the animated version even reduced the number of dwarves.
Oh wow!
I think it's only like 9 dwarves or something in that. Yeah. In the books, I mean, there are dwarves that don't have any lines whatsoever, and only like Thorin and Balin, they're the only ones with a significant amount of lines.
Yeah, I think Bomber is the only dwarf that doesn't have any lines in the Hobbit.
No, he has lines.
Oh, he does, Bomber.
Oh, Bomber. Oh, heck yeah.
When?
Well, for one, in Mirkwood. When he falls into the river, falls asleep, and then when he wakes up, he's whining about not having any food because while he was in a coma from the magical river, he was dreaming about wonderful banquets and everything.
I don't remember him complaining about being hungry.
Bomber's the fat one. He was complaining about being hungry.
I know which one Bomber is, but I don't remember him actually complaining about food.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. This just means you need to finish the book.
Finish the book.
Yes, to your credit, you have started it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, no, Bomber's definitely got lines. In fact, he's one of the ones that have.
Wait. So are you talking about he had those lines in the book or in the movies?
In the book.
I'm talking about the movie.
They're not in the movie. You're talking about the movie. I'm sorry. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Okay, that's why we're talking past each other. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, gosh, I can't think if he has lines in the movie or not.
Yeah, I think he's the only
one. But
he's the only one that doesn't, because even shoot, I always get to.
That's actually kind of funny because in the book he's got a fair amount of lines. So in the movie they decided to just, I guess, make him a visual gag.
Even Biffer has lines in The Hobbit.
Yeah. Huh.
The guy with the axe.
Yeah, that. I don't know. I just don't know why. You don't have an ox in your head. Oh, hey.
Dude, if you see the third one, an extended edition, the axe goes away in the third one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
See,
it goes away.
I haven't seen the extended editions of Desolation or Battle, so.
The thing is, you'd probably mock it though because he loses the axe and then all of a sudden he speaks perfect English again. But yeah, he in the third one he oh wait no you'd more so mock how he lost the axe. But anyway, in the third one,
Somebody slap you in the back of the head and it flies out or something?
no, well he jams it into either a troll or an orc. I think it's a troll. He jams it into a troll, and then it as the troll falls down, it gets yanked out of his head. And then when the other dwarves tries to give him back the axe, and he's like, he tosses it to his side, and he's like, they know where they can shove that or something. You will mock it. You will. I know you. You will mock it.
I probably would. I'm sure you're correct. All right. So, but in general, yeah, I think one last thing about the riddles in the dark scene, where Bilbo spares Gollum.
Yeah.
That was so well done. That was actually honestly one of the greatest. That may be the best scene out of the whole trilogy. I would argue that it's in the top 5 certainly.
Oh no, I agree with you there.
And there's and don't get me wrong, with the second and third movies, there are good scenes in them. There are things to like. It's just not enough.
For you, not enough. For me, enough.
Enough. Barely. All right, so I guess here's the question, Krystle. Do we keep going?
I'm more than happy to keep going.
All right, let's roll. Desolation. Okay. I've been doing most of the talking. You go.
Oh, you sure? Because I can let you go first since I started the first movie.
That's okay. That's okay. You started. I finished ad nauseum. So.
Oh boy. Okay. So. Actually, now I gotta remember. I really should have looked over these notes before. Oh. But the second one, there's definitely a tonal change too. It's definitely overall it's more darker and
yeah.
I've also noticed too there's a shift in focus with the story. Like they slowly start focusing more in on like the character relationships and whatnot. If I'm remembering correctly. And
they introduce a bunch more character relationships, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which fits in a way.
And they show more of Bilbo's change due to the ring and the journey, and then
yes,
and then of course you see the shift in Thorin when they finally get to the mountain. After they mistakenly have him lead through Mirkwood.
Yes. After Gandalf gets the telepathic wizard signal from Galadriel, I was like, oh, I gotta roll.
Oh! That's what I was thinking of. With the second movie, you really start before even showing up out the mountain. You really do start to see Thorin's pride kind of start kicking in, and it's you especially start seeing it in Mirkwood. First, I'm not gonna use him leading them through Mirkwood as an example because like he's the king. Of course, he's gonna want to lead them through, even though he
clearly sucks at it.
Twice? How do you get lost on your way to Bilbo Baggins' habit hole, the biggest habit hole out of all the habit holes?
Right. What? Exactly. It's like other than as far as anything in the Shire proper that isn't in Tookland or Buckland, this is probably the biggest hobbit hole that there is. So
like Thorin.
It's got an address.
Get it together. Anyway, so you start seeing it in Mirkwood, like when he's talking to Bilbo, and like with the white deer, and it's like he goes to shoot it, and it's like Bilbo's, telling him like, that's not a good idea. You know how this forest is, and he's like, whatever. We make our own luck. We're not gonna have bad luck by doing this, whatever. And then it's like, well, it turns out you are. and then you start seeing him more of like him trying to figure out what the path is and lead them through, and it's like he's just like, no, it's this way. We gotta go this way. And then something I noticed rewatching this again, because I was really paying attention to this stuff, even more so because coming up with notes in the scene where he's talking to Durandul and their conflict or whatever, and they're talking, and it's just him and Durandul and Durandul's guards around. And something I noticed is Thorin not only openly mocks Durandul in front of Durandul and his guards, but he talks and stands as if he has this huge audience around, but then they showed the whole area and it's just this empty place, and Thorne's acting like he has this huge audience and crowd where he's just openly mocking how weak and worthless and a fool Thranduil is and how he's better, and you start seeing his pride there. And then, of course, obviously you see it when they arrive at the mountain, and he's, Bilbo's trying to get away from Smaug because it's like, dude, there's an angry dragon after us. We gotta get going. And Thorin's main focus is like, but do you have the Arkenstone? There's a dragon coming. Do you have the Arkenstone? Thorin, this isn't the Arkenstone or not. It's like, okay.
Which,
dude, dragon.
Of course, is something that Thorin immediately drops, and that doesn't really resume questioning Bilbo again, which that caught me the first and on the rewatch too. Like, okay, I understand you had to drop it for the minute because, yeah, sure enough, just like Bilbo said, the dragon showed up and we kind of had to escape from him. But why on earth didn't he turn his suspicion right back to Bilbo? Because Bilbo was not giving him an answer. He wasn't even giving him a bad answer. He was just kind of looking at him like, well, let's go. He never once said no. He never once said, let's look for it later. None of that. He just basically didn't answer the question. And especially when Thorin is going kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs there, you would think that instead of Bilbo being the one that he winds up trusting, by the time we get into the third movie, he would be the one that his suspicion would be most turned to.
But I'm trying to think, wasn't there something Bilbo did right before the movie ended that might have caused Thorin to regain? Didn't Bilbo help Thorin get Smaug into that room to where they could pour the gold on him?
I mean, I think so, but I mean, that's not.
Can I get what you're? I'm trying.
Even so, but again, that's way towards the end. That little side quest that Gandalf goes on towards the beginning when Galadriel contacts him telepathically, and he goes to like the old Witch King's grave or something. Again, that kind of becomes the thing that's like, why did you have to go all the way there? What was it that tipped Galadriel off that maybe that's interesting? Why does he have to actually go back and physically inform anybody? Because obviously the telepathy works pretty well. There's a lot of things there, and like, why on earth did he have Radagast meet him there? Because he just Radagast shows up and they turn around and leave. It's like, did you just want us to not forget that Radagast was around? That's kind of what it feels like. Kind of like the whole Arwen's fate tied to the Ring subplot in the Lord of the Rings movies. It's like, I'm pretty sure they came up with that just so that we didn't forget that she exists.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of that's kind of how I wound up feeling. And that whole scene just seemed pointless. It's like, we know the main threat is at Dol Guldur. Why are we going off? Why are we going off here to this little side quest for reasons? I don't know. And again, Gandalf going into Dol Guldur on his own there and everything, knowing that there's something big going on. Probably should have had some backup. Some backup that didn't have bird poop on its head.
I'm trying to remember now. I know there's a scene where Gandalf and Radagast are in Dol Guldur together. Was that in the first one?
I think that was that was when everybody shows up to rescue him, which I think is a battle of the battle of the 5 armies.
No. Radagast wasn't there for that.
What's that? I'm sorry?
Radagast wasn't there for that.
He showed up at the end. He showed up at the end of that battle. Yeah,
but I'm talking about when...
Yeah, you're right. I think Radagast brought him to Dol Guldur, and then he's like, go get the White Council and let them know that I'm here, sort of thing, which again is that telepathic radio one way only from Goliath, at least at a distance. I'm like, just fire that up, Gandalf, and say, hey, bring some backup. Probably more than just you. FYI. So, but even you think about that for just a second. Before, like right at the beginning of the movie, where Bjorn chases them into his house, Bjorn in bear form. Bjorn was utterly irrelevant to the movie. He's just like, okay, big giant bear Bjorn chases him into his house. He walks in at night and finds them there all sleeping and everything, and he's just like, oh, shrug. Well, especially when he's, as a man, he can be reasoned with. Well, you didn't even bother trying to reason with him. You were literally just crashing out in this place. It's when he came back. It's like, I'm sorry, the character design, freaking Sonic the Hedgehog Bjorn. No, that was some poor character design. It just looked ridiculous.
He wasn't that bad.
Okay. this is definitely that's definitely going to be an agree to disagree section, because I saw when I first saw. Usually, when I see stills from a movie, some odd character design, I don't know. I was like, well, let's wait and see how it looks on screen, because usually a still looks more ridiculous than it does on screen. When I saw it on screen, I was like, yep, that's pretty ridiculous still. That can't go. I don't know why the dude who looks like a bear has to have Sonic the Hedgehog hair. In fact, if anything, he should have been a hedgehog man. He should have been Sebastian in man form. Yes. I've literally never thought that before just now, but yes.
Please don't ever have that thought again.
I think it's right.
I think you're wrong.
No. I am clearly in the right. I mean, his eyebrows go up into his hair over his forehead. No. Just no. He can be a great big scary hairy dude, but it shouldn't be like. Did you go see David Boy's hairstylist when he did a lot of LSD?
Now I think I know where you really want to get into about the second movie. The whole Legolas tutorial.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes. First, one more thing about the beginning.
Okay.
This is one of the things that, again, didn't make any sense to me. Azog apparently very quickly tracked them. Apparently, they can run about as fast as eagles fly. Tracked them to Bjorn's house. And then, somehow, some messenger from Dol Guldur was able to find him quickly, right there. And was like, hey, You got to go. The boss says, come back. But it's like, but we're hunting Thorin and everybody. The answer should have been, but we literally have to wait for them to leave the house and quest over. Mission accomplished. King, potential king under the mountain dead. We're done. Like, oh no, I'm just gonna go. I'm not even really gonna argue. And then he goes back. Why? He literally does a handoff with Bold. I had it, you got it. Now you get to go hunt Thorin and everybody, and I'll lead the armies instead of just. And then later on, they do another thing where Azog is like, okay, now you go get Gundabad's armies. Because.
Did I know that?
Why did Bold just lead all the friggin' armies at the beginning? Let Azog finish his hunt with Thorin. It's like, this is a stupid decision.
But the thing is, do they even know that the dwarves ended up at Bjorn's house?
Yeah, they tracked him there.
I don't remember that part. I
they were literally looking at Bjorn's house and like, they're in there.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, they're right there.
I only remember Bjorn chasing them into his own house.
Yeah.
Would the orcs really want to mess with Bjorn?
No, like I said, all they had to do was wait for them to leave. A handful of orcs wouldn't want to mess with Bjorn. But even then, you would still want to like leave somebody to, keep an eye on them instead of bringing the whole troop back and hope Bold can pick up the trail again. Through freaking Mirkwood. Which apparently he manages to do because he can. Somehow they managed to track them over to Thranduil's hidey hole, but it's just like a bad decision. Why would Azog do that?
Because
it's like give me a day. Give me that. You know what? How about you go back there and say, tell the boss to have Bold lead the armies because he's going to wind up leading an army anyway. And then I'll finish this up. Once I get it wrapped up, I'll be back. We'll march on the Lonely Mountain. We'll talk to Smaug, and everything's going to be great. Which that's another thing. Smaug apparently, he seems like he's in on the plan. Again, how did that happen? I can buy that he can sense Sauron's power rising again. I can get that, but I forget the exact line, but the way he talks, he definitely seems like he knows more.
Now that part I don't remember either.
It was one line. It was one line when he's talking to Bilbo in the mountain, and talking about rising darkness, this and that. And I'm like, but the way he says it seems like he's in on more of the plan than he has any right to be. Especially since he was literally just taking a nap under the gold. Now again, who knows?
I can't really comment on that because I don't know what line you're referring to.
That's fair. And again, it was one line, and it's a relatively little thing, but it's just like it's one of those things like there's implications made, but there's no necessarily reason that the implications exist. Other than maybe, again, Smaug senses the power. Maybe he's got a telepathic connection with Sauron, but then why wouldn't he be up and doing something already? I don't know. It's just it's a relatively minor annoyance, the kind of thing that I would normally let go, to be honest. But
no, see, I just have no idea what you're talking about. So
that's fair. But okay, so I think that gets us up to Thranduil. Now are you totally okay with the Tariel Keeley thing, or I don't know exactly what your thoughts are on it.
Well, at first I didn't like the idea of Toriel because at first I kind of felt like it was a thing of like, there's too many male characters. We need to add a female somehow. So,
which it was, but
anyway.
I mean, that is exactly what it was.
I'm just not gonna think about it. Anyway. Now, see, I'm fine with the whole Toriel Killy thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. You refer when we were talking prior to doing the show. You referred to it as a love triangle, and I'm just like, it's too. Legolas is such a ghost in it. I honestly can't see it as a love triangle because to me, this is how it feels like. Legolas has feelings for Toriel, but Toriel doesn't have feelings for Legolas, but she kind of, I feel like in ways she unknowingly uses that to her advantage because it's like she wants to go do something, Legolas is obviously going to follow her. But it's like, it's mentioned that Legolas has feelings for her, and it's like he does stuff based on those feelings, but it's not really a thing ever.
No, it isn't.
So that's why I'm like, I really can't call it a love triangle because all the love seems to be with Toriel and Killy. And love triangles usually involve a thing where two of the people in the love triangle are butting heads, but the only people really butting heads are I'd say Legolas and Toriel because Legolas is butting heads with all the dwarves, not just Killy. So it's not like it just I honestly can't call it a love triangle. It is not, in my eyes, it is not a love triangle. It does not fit the definition of what a love triangle is.
And okay, I'm going to grant that. But in a way, that's part of my problem with it because they kind of try to set it up as a love triangle. It's like they load the gun, but they never pull the trigger, really. Because they set up that Legolas is supposedly has feelings for Toriel, and the Thranduil basically warns her off of, trying to return those feelings at all. So, does she have them and she just suppresses them, or is he just making assumptions? Hard to say. But yeah, there isn't a whole lot that goes on between the two of them. That's certainly true. But as you said, Legolas is like a ghost with the whole thing, which is my main issue with it. Is like, okay, they try to set this up as a love triangle, but they never move it anywhere at all. It never, as you said, it never really becomes a thing. It's just they say something in that direction every now and then they're like, but never mind. We just remembered we've actually got a lot more other story to tell, so we're going to ignore this subplot that we kind of set up and just vaguely hint at this general direction from time to time. Ugh. Now, as far as Toriel herself goes, I was actually okay with having the Toriel character. Is she in the book? No. Is it reasonable to think that there would be female elves in Thranduil's realm? Yeah. So is it unreasonable that there would be a female elf on screen? No, of course not. Yeah. Now, the fact that and I am going to give them all credit, they didn't sexualize her. They didn't dress her. They didn't, give her the low-cut boob armor or any of that. She was dressed like I would imagine a woodland elf who likes to go out and slay spiders would dress. This, that was logical. Good for them on that.
All the other ones.
What's that?
She came and dressed like all the other ones.
Well, exactly. They didn't do the normal Hollywood thing. So
I think that's why I ended up in the end being okay with Toriel because like we've been over this. If you're adding a character just to fill in Xbox, I'm like, why?
Right.
But she ended up not really being that bad of an addition. So it's like, okay, forgiven. I'm just not gonna think about why I did it. But now see, I see what you mean about the whole love triangle thing. It's just I think I'm just so happy there wasn't a love triangle. I'm okay with the setup not being followed through.
You really didn't want a love triangle. So you're like, you set it up, you drop the ball on your own story, but I'm okay with that fact. Gotcha. Yes. Like, lesser of two evils. Got it.
yeah, because it's like, they didn't really do much of it, and it only really serves to show why Legolas would be following what Toriel does and why they'd be butting heads.
Yeah.
It's like other than that, it does nothing. But at the same time, it's just like, you know, I'm okay with that little with that little error in plotting. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Listen, lesser of two evils.
You are forgiven for your sins because that's a worse sin.
Fair enough. Now I didn't like how they made her like super duper warrior princess. I was okay with her being a good fighter against the orcs because, you know, who knows exactly how things apply with the elves there and everything. I'm fine with that. But and also, Michael, I have the same complaint about Legolas. In the Lord of the Rings movies, as we had kind of already touched on, he was very, very good at what he did. he was clearly the best fighter out of the bunch.
Yeah.
The way they did it. Capable of certain things that may or may not have defied physics. But then again, he's an elf, and it is canonical that he can walk on top of snow. So I was willing to give them a pass on that because other than the shield surfing incident, which actually I thought was a lot of fun, and and of course taking down the Mumakil and in Return of the King, I was, you know, other than those things, they really didn't emphasize it too terribly much. It wasn't like he could just wade through an army of orcs on his own. Now in Desolation and in Battle of Five Armies, yeah, he pretty much just effortlessly wades through like whole armies of orcs, like without even breaking a sweat. He's jumping off dwarves' heads. He's flipping around here. He's flipping around there. It's just like, you know what? It's actually gone past the point of where it looks cool, and now it's just boring. In all honesty, because it's like, okay, you're just literally, like I said, you're just wading through the army of orcs, and no one could touch. I mean, they do that one scene where Thorn throws the sword, stops that one from getting him in the back, but one minor aberration out of the whole sequence. It's just like, ugh.
I don't know. It was kind of funny when he was standing on the dwarves' heads.
Oh, it was funny, all right.
Well, I'd say the whole Legolas thing was better than the bomber barrel thing.
That one I actually had fun with. I was like, okay, is it stupid and ridiculous? By golly, yes. But
I don't know how I feel about it. Like I don't know. I think even the first time I saw it, I'm just kind of like, it's fun, but I don't know how I feel. I just don't know how I feel about it because here's the thing. Every time I see that scene, I think of a game I played as a kid where it's on PlayStation 2, so it's an old game, and it's a Trek game, and there's I can't remember what level or anything it is or what the thing was, but there was like something in the barrel you had to fight, and it kind of did something similar to what Bomber did. So it's like, as soon as I saw Bomber do that in the Hobbit movies, and ever since then, I can't it always makes me think of the Trek game. And I always think, I actually kind of want to play that game now.
Who knows? Maybe that was the inspiration, because when I saw that, I did think, wow, this looks like something out of a video game.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's like every time I see it, I just think of my Shrek video game. And it's like, no, I kind of want to play that now.
Yeah, in my mind, I was literally seeing like point numbers bounce off, come up from the orcs wherever Bomber hit them. It's just like, that is totally how this feels. It's ridiculous, but first time I saw it, it did get a laugh out of me. So, and so laughter earns you a lot of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Whereas Legolas and his just flipping around doing whatever, there wasn't any laughter there. It was just like, oh, you're really saying he's this awesome? Sure, I guess. Stupid. But on the Toriel Keeley thing, now this is something that still, even on a second thing, is affected by the books a lot. And that's the fact that in the books, a dwarf elf relationship could just no. It's like not just because of the racial animosity between them, just no, this is not a thing that could possibly happen. And that I don't know why they felt the need to do it. I mean, I can come up with reasons. Just to me, none of them are good enough. It's just such an odd thing, and especially they do it after, like, they fall in love, or Toriel falls in love with him after he makes a couple of flirty jokes about what may or may not be in his trousers. Really? It's like, really? It's like, she's falling with him because of a stupid pickup line in a bar when he's behind bars. Come on. That's just,
they kind of suit each other though.
What's that?
They kind of suit each other though, if you think about it. Like they're both sort of like the rebels of their own group. Like, out of all them, Keely's kind of like the rebel against like Thorin.
The one who might be willing to say something against Thorin.
Yeah, which
I suppose in a way I can see that.
Which he does in the third one, but like his attitude is different from all the rest. He looks different from all the rest too. You know, he doesn't have like the full on beard or
right. Aiden Turner is awful dreamy, yes.
And I wasn't going that far, but okay. But and then you know, Toriel is obviously the rebel against Thranduil.
Thranduil, yeah.
They're both rebels against their own kings, basically.
That's actually a fair point. Actually, that's actually something I hadn't considered. So, okay, I still can't buy it. I'm still like, why?
Okay, here's the thing. I never said it would work out in the end, though. I just said I don't mind it being I don't mind them being interested in each other and that the feels being there. If they were to actually become a couple and have little half dwarf half elf babies,
it'd be the dreamiest wars ever.
And the shortest elves ever.
And the shortest elves, yes, exactly.
But
oh
yeah,
goodness, yeah,
like,
no, just no.
I think I don't mind it so much because it doesn't end up working out.
It doesn't, although by golly, the way they do it at the end, where you know, Toriel's all, oh my gosh, the lines are so cliche. Why does it hurt so much? Because it was real. Really? You literally had a total of like half an hour together. Give me a break. Like, okay, maybe there's such a thing as love at first sight, but this ain't Romeo and Juliet, people.
It could be Romeo and Juliet in Middle Earth.
Yeah, just no. Besides, that's the Baron and Luthien story. But oh, yeah, no, I just cannot. I just can't get there. It's just no.
Why not him love, man?
I mean, on the second watching, I'll grant they set up the because it was real line. I grant that they set that up. It was still cheesy. It was still like, did somebody just read Hallmark cards as their inspiration for this nonsense?
Meanwhile, I would argue not everything that's cheesy is necessarily bad, but
I'll grant you that. I will grant you that premise, but
I'm a chick, okay? Leave me alone. Don't ask me.
Yes. There's a difference of perspective there. I'll give you that. But yeah, so right off the bat with this one, I'm just like not loving it. And the way they recycled certain things, you know, from Lord of the Rings, like, oh, Keely got shot with a, you know, poison arrow, like a Morgul poison arrow, like an arrow that's apparently poison that's does the same sort of stuff to you that the Witch King's blade did to Frodo, which in and of itself doesn't make a lot of sense. The way they did that, and then they recycled the Athelas cure, and then we see the elven healing magic money shot as it's been described, where all of a sudden you get glowy Tauriel. It's like, why are we recycling this?
What are those recycling?
Remember when Tauriel? I think this is. Oh good, no, this is still Desolation. When Tauriel shows up and heals Keeley.
Yeah.
They basically set it up that the arrow that he got shot with is doing the same thing to him that the Witch King's blade did to Frodo.
See, I never made that connection.
See, you should be making that connection because the whole thing with, well, again, to be fair, this is something that I don't think is clear unless you've read the books, come to think of it. Because in the books, the little chip of the Witch King's blade that gets left in Frodo's wound, it isn't like a conventional poison that's hurting him. It's a certain magic, if you will, attached to the blade, and the blade is slowly working its way in towards his heart. And it's not just doing that; it's slowly turning him into a wraith. And that's why when he sees Arwen, he sees her all glowy and everything, because he's seeing what she looks like in that other realm, in that more spiritual realm. She's seeing the he's basically seeing Arwen's spiritual aspect more than the physical.
Okay, I'm a disagree with you right there. I don't think that's why Keeley saw Tauriel as being all glowy.
Okay, why do you think he saw her as being all glowy?
Because they were playing up the whole, like, he's dying and he's seeing her as, like, this angel saving him.
I would agree with that if we hadn't seen the same sort of thing in the Lord of the Rings movies, and if I didn't know exactly why that was. Because it's very clear in the books that that's what they did, and they didn't spell that out in the Fellowship of the Ring movie, I grant you, but I just don't think they did. It's been a while since I've seen it, but in the books it is quite clearly spelled out. So yeah, they were going for the same thing. One would think for the same reasons. Again, your interpretation is perfectly defensible, taking only the movie in and of itself. I would grant you that. Knowing the bigger picture, though, if that's what they were going for, they weren't sticking with what they've already established. It's still a fail.
I'm still gonna have to disagree with you there, because.
All right. Well, you make time to read the books, and you get back to me on that. All right, but I would still say it's the recycling of everything is still annoying.
Even though I don't remember it in Lord of the Rings, I'll grant you the recycling. I can't grant the interpretation, because it's like I feel like out of all the things that are so cheesy, that would be the one thing you'd be like, oh come on, really? He sees her as this glowing goddess, come on now, like.
Yeah, see, again, that's not how I saw it at all. That's not remotely how I saw it. I saw it as, oh, we're recycling this, and that means this, and this, and this. I'm like, that's just lazy. It's lazy writing.
Now, see, I actually saw it as cheesy, so.
Okay, I mean, that's, again, take that interpretation makes sense. Just taking that movie as a standalone thing.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But like I said, knowing the wider picture there, it's like, no, it was just lazy writing. Yeah. As far as other things with Bard and this and that, I was okay with the picture of Bard, changes they made there and everything. I was fine with it. Other things wasn't so fine with. One was when the orcs come into Lake Town and they're like running around, jumping off rooftops and everything. I'm like, no one notices this. It's not like their orcs are known for their subtlety. No one hears the pitter patter of little orc feet on the rooftops. Nobody sounds the alarm. Give me a freaking break.
I thought people didn't know this.
Not really. It's like maybe there was one or two like closed a shutter or something, but it's like, give me a freaking break. You're being invaded by orcs. You might want to ring a bell or something. It's like, or they were orc ninjas and just nobody really noticed. Nobody really saw them. Like, come on. And then of course we get more, Legolas and Tauriel just wading through the whole army without really any effort. And then you get the fight between Legolas and Bolg. Which my big problem with that fight is Bolg's armor. He's got these armor plates like embedded in his skin and everything. That had to hurt, but I'm not critiquing that because okay, fine, you're a scary orc and everything, fine, whatever. The character designers just had to make you look creepy and horrifying. I get it, but there's at least a couple of scenes. There's definitely one where Bolg is bear hugging Legolas against his chest, against all that horrible, painful looking armor. And Legolas's tunic isn't even scratched? Really? I don't think again, this gets back to everything else in the world has to work the way that it's supposed to work, unless I'm given a good reason to think otherwise. I'm thinking if Bolg gets a hold of anybody in that position, unless they are also wearing armor, which Legolas clearly was not, let's go ahead and grant that, okay, fine, it's an elvish tunic. It's a little more protective than your average piece of fabric. Okay, fine. But still.
Don't forget though, in the third Hobbit movie, you find that they have this thin piece of chainmail thing that no sword is supposed to be able to penetrate.
Mithril, yes.
Mithril. So
Legolas doesn't have that.
He gets it. It's elven clothes.
No, because if that was true, if it's just the elves are so dang good at making fabric that's like impenetrable, you would never see an elf in actual armor, which you do, and they would never get pierced by any arrow or sword whatsoever. So no.
Well, I'm not saying like it's impenetrable, but like maybe that's why there's no tears. It's something stronger, but not as strong as mithril.
Yeah, I'm not going for it.
Oh.
It was just like
I tried.
Every time I see that, I'm just like, you gotta be joking.
No, see, I don't even bat an eye at moments like that because like I'm more focused on the actual fighting than whether or not like if it were like a bigger thing, I think I would have noticed. But it's like,
But by the time I got to this point in the first thing in the movie, I was just like, I was in such a mood. I was just like no, nothing escapes. Everything. I will find it and I will stomp on it mercilessly like the cockroach that it is.
oh my
yeah, but let me put it this way. By this time, I was in full-on cinema sins mode, and I didn't care. I was it's like, you know what? I'm not just going to hit it with both barrels. I'm going to weld extra barrels onto the shotgun so I can load in more rounds to hit it with more barrels.
No one likes the cinema sins, Jeremy Ginger.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you got to be that guy. Sometimes you're not the critic the movie deserves. You're the critic it needs.
Okay, I would not go that far.
That's right. All right, but anyway, okay. I've been talking for a while again. How about you bring us through the mountain?
Through the mountain.
Yes.
I think we already touched on it, but then
we touched on it a little bit.
With I think just like Riddles in the Dark, Bilbo's conversation with Smaug was pretty interesting too, and pretty good as well. Oh, that was another thing that hit me while watching it again. You kind of, I mean, of course he does. It kind of does consume him by the time Lord of the Rings happens.
Mm-hmm.
But at least in the case of the Hobbit, what I found interesting, you kind of see Thorin and Bilbo kind of falling down the same path, but Bilbo is managing to resist it more than Thorin is.
Right. Yes.
Because like what the Arkenstone and the mountain and everything is doing to Thorin, the One Ring is kind of doing to Bilbo. But in the case of the Hobbit, Bilbo is able to resist the ring more than Thorin is able to resist everything.
Right.
And it's really interesting, and I'll be touching on this more in with third movie because well sneak peek, third movie, the main thing it has going for it is the character arcs of Thorin, Oakenshield, and Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah.
Main good stuff it has going for it. But with the Desolation of Smaug, you really see that start to pick up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I really don't have much to say of the mountain stuff. They're really, I mean, unless you really want to like critique the physics of like the gold melting and whatnot.
I saw that. I'm like, really? This was your plan? Your plan was to lure Smaug down into the forges, so you could melt a cubic crapload of gold, pour it into this giant mold that fortunately is still there, lead him to said mold, break said mold, and then hope that when it breaks, because it didn't have enough time to cool, it all falls on top of Smaug. This was your plan. To take out the dragon.
Listen.
Okay.
This is Thorin Oakenshield we're talking about here. Lost my way twice to Bilbo Baggins' house, obsessed with gold in Arkansas. I mean, we are talking about this guy, and he can't. We are talking about. I got nothing out of it.
This is literally the most Rube Goldberg plan I think I've ever seen in a movie. That wasn't being played up for comic effect. I mean, this takes, again with a Scooby-Doo analogy, this takes a Fred trap and just makes it look simple and logical.
I love how you're trying to critique something I love with another thing that I love, as if it's gonna work.
Honestly, it's not. That's actually not my intent, believe it or not. This is not a subtle debate tactic. This is just the analogies are appropriate.
No. I know. I had to put that out there. You're using something I love to criticize something I love. I quite enjoy it.
Good. But yeah, that whole plan, I was like, wow. And I hated it more. I hated that more the second time around. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would this be your spur of the moment plan to fight the dragon? Like, don't you? There's got to be some like good bunch of anti-dragon weapons or something that just didn't make it out of the hall or something. No, your plan was to drop a statue of gold on it. Hope that worked. Okay, after Smaug chases you around the mountain totally incompetently, like the villain in a Scooby-Doo episode, where they're like running, we're gonna run around this causeway and just.
I saw that comparison coming, and I was actually about to make that comparison myself and say I don't mind it because I find those chases hilarious. So.
But the thing is, it really shouldn't be hilarious. That's the thing. That's the problem.
It is cool though when Smaug there's a scene, I don't know if it's in the non-extended edition, virgin, but there's a scene where Smaug is walking over them, and you see the bits of gold stuck in Smaug's scales.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I'll give
Yeah.
that. But little ahead of ourselves. I want to pull it back to Mirkwood a little bit and just comment on that great scene where Bilbo flips out and kills that weird larva thing. And because again, where he realizes, he has this sudden moment of clarity where he realizes it's probably because of the ring.
Yeah.
I was like, he goes like, and it's like, wow, that was a good scene.
I love that scene, and I actually noticed that this last time around too, because it's like Bilbo throughout the whole thing is usually very careful of what he kills, and in that scene, he could just hide someplace till that thing goes away, but no, instead he decides to kill that thing because he wants the ring so bad.
He goes full on berserker on it, yeah.
He goes full on Gollum.
Yeah.
He pulls a Gollum, people.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you could definitely argue that it's too soon for him to be so negatively influenced by the ring. And then if he realizes it's that bad, why does he put it straight back in his pocket? You could, and there's things you could argue around that, to be honest. But the scene itself was very good.
No, see, I'd argue against that, because if you think about it, the effects of the ring could be temporarily increased because they're in Mirkwood, and Mirkwood is playing with their mind. You see how?
Point? Yeah, that's actually a very fair point.
I don't know if it's in the regular version, but you see in the extended edition, how Mirkwood plays tricks with like Bilbo's mind, where like they're walking and then
that's in the theatrical.
And he looks.
And I actually hated that. I hated the way they portrayed Mirkwood. The way it's like exuding some sort of weird psychedelic gas or something. I don't know how you were supposed to take that.
I don't take it as a psychedelic thing. It's more so it plays tricks with your mind.
Yeah, it's just the way they represented it.
It messes with your mind and turns you backwards in all different ways because, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But the way they did it, it was like they were being affected by something other than just the general crappiness of the forest. It was like they were stumbling around like they were high, essentially. Not happy high, more like very confused high. But anyway, but again, that one scene with the spider, and that is a good point, though. That is a very good point about, since Mirkwood is kind of infused with this darkness emanating from Dol Guldur. Yeah, that is very reasonable, especially since at that point it is in relatively close proximity to Sauron himself. Its effects could definitely be pronounced. I think that I hadn't thought about that before. That's actually a very good point.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, Thorn's pride gets more pronounced too, and some of the other characters' flaws get more pronounced due to the surroundings.
I'm curious, what did you make of when Thranduil does that weird thing where he shows Thorin some injuries, presumably from some dragon or another?
No, on this last viewing, I like it. But on this last viewing, it actually popped into my head. They don't really delve further into that, and I'd be curious because it's such a cool effect, and it's like.
Yeah, it's like, why?
What happened to Thranduil to make him look like a demon, dude? Like, what happened?
Well, I'm wondering, is that how he really looks? And he's using some weird sort of, glamour, for lack of a better term, to so make himself look pretty? Or was he just using a glamour to show the damage that it had done and that he has since healed from? Not really clear.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just weird. I was like, what's going on with that? I'm not totally fine with the fact that Thranduil hasn't always just sat around under the ground collecting trinkets and whatnot. That's fine. But, huh?
Yeah.
I guess it's sort of my my question. And also, again, we're kind of I'm going backwards a little bit here, but the whole barrel sequence, that is a horrible trading river. Horrible river to send your trade goods down, because how any barrel could possibly make it through that, and it sure as hell ain't making it upstream. There's no way anything is getting upstream that at all. So, I mean, within the world of the movie, clearly there would have to be a path that this stuff is being brought to Thranduil via wagon or some such. Because it ain't making it up that river. I don't care how many oarmen you've got. that thing was set up like a ride at an amusement park.
Dude, based on the behind the scenes filming, that was like a ride at an amusement park. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Now, I really got annoyed by one particular scene when they got to the mountain.
Oh, okay. I think I know what
you know. Okay, you go ahead with this. I think you know what I'm going to say.
No, you
okay.
Go
ahead. They finally get to the mountain. They go through all of this, fighting orcs, flying with eagles, escaping from the yells, getting out of Lake Town. All of this, fighting spiders. They get all the way to the mountain. They get up to the door. They can't find the keyhole. So they pound on the door for like a minute. But then they're like, well, that sucks. I guess it's time to leave.
But okay, now
really? Okay. You give up that easily?
No. Here's what I'm gonna have to say. I don't think it was actually for just a minute. I don't think it was actually for just a minute. I think they only showed you a snippet of what they were trying to do, which is the thing movies tend to do. They're not going to show you the whole entire amount of time they spend trying to get in there, because it's going to end up being boring because they're doing the same thing over and over again. Which I think they did in this case. I don't think they literally tried for just a minute and then gave up.
Right. This gets into a whole different thing of how the proper way to interpret a movie. And I understand there are different schools of thought. You're coming at it from this was symbolic to a degree.
I wouldn't use the word symbolic. I would use it more as a how to word it. They only show you a little bit of the time that passes. They don't show you the full. Right.
And we're meant to interpret that as this represents the struggle to get in the door, which was of a longer, indeterminate length of time than we're showing on screen. So I can see that, but there's ways to do that to make it clear that that's what was happening.
To me, it was clear. Because I see it often in movies, and I don't know. For me, it was just a clear thing, especially knowing how Thorin is.
That's exactly it. Knowing how Thorin is, I'm like, it's like they showed it. And again, they didn't give anything to show a passage of time at all. You know, if they had like done it where like show a shadow moving across the ground or something to demonstrate the passage of time, it's like, okay, that sun's moving along.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember. I believe there was something they did to show that, but I can't.
No, because they got there just as the sun was setting, the last light of Durin's day.
But don't forget, I was watching the extended edition too, so there could have been a small thing.
Possibly, and if that's the case, then I would. If that's the case, if they did something like that. To demonstrate the passage of time, I would withdraw the criticism. I'm
struggling to remember because with rewatching them, I think the second one there was something where something kept distracting me from.
Okay, in the theatrical though.
So that's why my memory is so bad with the second movie, people.
That's fine. With the theatrical though, there was nothing of the kind. In fact, it was clear that they were getting there with the last light of Durin's day. So there wouldn't have been the opportunity for there to be something like that to show the passage of time, because there was very little time that could pass. So there's no way, actually, when I think of the dialogue, at least in the theatrical, that they would have been sitting there for like a couple of hours trying to get in. They had only minutes.
No.
So, yeah. And then Bilbo's the one who sticks around to go, hey, it meant the moonlight. Moonlight. That's the last light of Durin's day. Just the ease with which the apparent ease, I'll give you that. Like say the apparent ease with which they gave up was just no.
Okay.
Seeing that, I was like, this is not. No, they would. There's no way they would do that. But now this brings back what we were talking about with the Arkenstone. All of a sudden, Balin's bringing up the fact that the treasure could possibly be cursed or something, to where there's a sickness on it, like, and of course that comes up more throughout the movie as Thorin goes, spirals downward.
Third one.
What's that?
Was that the second one or third one?
It's brought up in both, and my thought is, okay, Balin, why weren't you bringing this up before you even started on this big long quest? If you were concerned about some horrible sickness being on the treasure, I mean, you could argue that he's just trying to find the silver lining. Like, he wasn't 100% buying that, or at least he thought it was worth the risk. So now since they can't get in, maybe they're like, I guess this is a danger. Maybe it's for the best. You could make that argument. But still.
He was probably hoping that based on how Thorin was before, that Thorin wouldn't succumb to it. But then his faith in Thorin begins to dwindle as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give at least the first mention of it a little bit of or at least not mentioning it before starting the quest. I'm going to give it a little bit of a pass just based on the fact that maybe at that moment he's like, you know what? Since it was a risk, maybe it's just better. I'm going to actually go ahead and be okay with that aspect, I think. But it still does get to, okay, is the treasure in fact cursed? They talk about the dragon sickness repeatedly.
Yeah.
Is that like a literal thing? Is that like is the dragon sickness what attracts the dragon? Is it made worse because the dragon's there? What exactly is that? Because honestly, you know what it reminds me of more than anything else? Something in the Narnia books. I want to say it's Voyage of the Dawn Treader, where they come across a treasure that literally has a dragon sickness on it, that if you fall under the spell, you will in fact turn into a dragon.
Yeah.
And the way that whole concept was presented in Desolation and Battle, it reminds me of that more than anything else, more than anything in Tolkien. In Tolkien, such things are, with rare exceptions like The Ring, attributed to the simple greed and the effect it has on a person, which is definitely the way that whole thing was portrayed in the book. That yes, the pride and everything, you just became a greedy, arrogant a-hole. Yeah. if you have too much treasure. This one is like, it literally is changing the person and literally making them go crazy. Yeah. Until Thorin has his melty gold moment and kind of comes back to his senses. Which I believe that was Battle.
Yeah. Which we should probably move on to.
Yes. I think we seem to be taking longer as we go. Okay. So Battle. Yeah, I didn't really have much else to say other than this Smaug's little pep talk to himself at the end. It's like, really? You're giving a dramatic speech to yourself as you're flying out. I'm like, I get that you're narcissistic and all that, but really,
dude, that's what some narcissistic people do.
I want to say no, and it's all bunk. But considering how well I know certain self-help things, yeah.
Also, again,
it's just really cringy.
Also, need to remind you again how Thorin was behaving with Thranduil when they first got caught. He was talking as if there was an entire audience listening to him, when really it was just.
But he was at least talking to someone else. there was another person there who could hear. Smaug is literally reciting his press as he's flying out to destroy Lake Town, reciting it to himself. I wrote this little ditty about myself, and I just really like it. I'm going to give myself some positive affirmations as I go to burn the town. Instead, incidentally, of sticking around to finish off the dwarves, which is what he should have done. It's like, they just almost took you down, pal. You really want to fly out, take out the town, and give them time to come up with an actual good plan? How is this a good idea? I'm willing to bet that if you give them a couple hours, since they almost took you down with the melting statue idea, I'm willing to bet they could Rube Goldberg up something a lot better than that. In fact, give them an hour. I'm willing to bet they could come up with some black arrows, because there's more than a little bit of iron around there.
Are you ready for the third movie?
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I really had to get that out.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Stupidity in characters really bothers me.
Anyway, but the third movie, okay. You're prepare yourself, because you're gonna be shocked.
Okay.
The third movie, I actually have more criticisms than praises for the third movie.
Okay, go for it. Feel free to include praises too. This does not need to be just me bashing on.
No. I'm telling you, because it's like I wasn't really thinking I'd come into this defending the whole entire thing, and I was like, okay, third one, I have more critiques than I do praises. Yeah. Anyway, so main criticisms. First one. I don't have a problem with the limited amount of time they gave to Smaug destroying Lake Town. I just think it wasn't utilized well.
Okay, how so?
That's the thing. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's the same thing with the tonal thing. They do it gradually, but there's still something missing that's not pulled off. The only thing I can think of with the whole Smaug attacking Lake Town and why it wasn't properly utilized with the limited time they gave it, because I think with the limited time they gave it, it could have still been fantastic. But I don't think they made it as, I don't want to say scary. It wasn't as full tension as I think it should have been, or like horrific or scary like it should have been. Like there was just something was just missing from it.
Well, and I think part of that might have been the whole comedic aspect they were going with the mayor and Alfred. They kept offsetting it with that. Dude,
I actually have it in my notes with the choking of the mayor. It's something I would expect to see in Game of Thrones, and I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but it's like I didn't think that the first time I saw the movie, or the past few times I saw, but this last time watching it again, it's like, okay, this mayor death, this is so Game of Thrones.
That was pretty. That was pretty harsh the way that went down. Yeah, but it was also clever. I mean, good on Bard for making use of what was available.
Right? Yeah. But so that I have, there's my critique of that. What else was there? The whole fighting, the whole battle, it just, okay, I'm going to come out here and say I think Thorin's cousin was a mistake.
Okay.
like okay, not his character, but the way they did his character. Because like it's fine making him crazier than Thorin, so you can have Gandalf be like, I always found Thorin to be the more reasonable of the two. But it just, I can't take him seriously.
You can't even.
I can't even. I take Tremors more seriously.
Well, it's funny that you bring up Tremors.
I take the Tremors that come in more seriously, and I can't unthink of Tremors every time I see the werewolves.
Yeah, it's kind of unavoidable that, okay, anyone who sees that is going to think, oh, look, Middle-earth graboids, or wereworms. Okay. Or they're thinking, oh, so is this actually a secret Dune prequel? What's going on? I don't know. What? Why?
And Philly. Philly was so underutilized in this movie.
Yeah, especially since Feely and Feely are twins. It's like Feely is almost a non-character. Almost like, well, Legolas was a frequently appearing character, but he had like no personality in either movie. He just had that. He like had one expression throughout the whole thing. Now, part of that might have been the CGI de-aging they did in Orlando Bloom, or maybe because it looked like they did that a little bit. He just had like the same kind of concerned, kind of dopey expression the whole time. Like he was somewhere between concerned and angry the whole movie.
No, I feel like with the first two movies, you can kind of give a pass for Philly not really being used more, but with the third one, it is so obvious. Like, dude, you should have used Philly. If they would have used, it would have made sense to use Philly more, because either one, you could have Philly start kind of, dealing with the same stuff Thorin is, but on a much lesser scale, or you could do this thing where it's a foreshadowing of like, okay, Thorin was kind of worried of how his father was becoming with all the gold.
Mm-hmm.
Gold. Now you could have it where Thorin's the new king, and now Philly's in Thorin's shoes.
Oh yeah, that actually would have been good, dude. Or at least, gosh, do something with Feely, because I should have cared more when he died.
Right? And it
bummed
me out so much, because actually Philly was always one of my favorite dwarves.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah. He was my favorite dwarf before Thorin.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, fun fact. But it's like, and it's like, I do like that they also kind of have Bilbo in Thorin's shoes too, prior to Thorin becoming mad.
Right.
But I feel like they could have kept that while at the same time playing Philly in that same position too. But instead they gave that, they had Killy more so standing up to Thorin, as kind of like, I don't know. It just
to give Feely something more to do.
Okay, that scene. This is just a personal thing, not the movie scene. Or because I don't know, but that scene where Thorin gets out of his madness and he arrives because he's about to, do his thing of like, will you Follow Me One Last Time, whatever, which is an awesome moment. But for some reason, Killy yelling at him as he's walking up just feels off.
Yeah, because it's too late. Because it's like, dude, really? You've been holding us in that long? And now you're giving the speech? Guess what? He's fine now.
Yeah.
I won't sit here and let others fight our battles for us 1 minute longer because I've been doing it for a while already.
Yeah. But I think that's pretty much the extent of my criticisms, not my praises. Like I said, the character arcs of Bilbo and especially Thorin are the saving graces and the best parts of the third movie. And his descent into madness and just seeing the dynamic between him and Bilbo, because it's like Bilbo in a way is like his last piece of humanity. Yeah. And when Thorin goes to throw Bilbo off the ledge, that's like Thorin throwing away his last bit of humanity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree.
And it's those arcs are just so well done in this movie, and they outshine everything else. And don't even get me started on Thorin's death.
That was really good.
Honestly, out of the entire movie trilogy, that may be my all-time favorite scene.
Yeah, that was a very, very, very good scene. The death of Thorin and his reconciliation with Bilbo. That was beautifully done, beautifully acted by both. And
I'll pop the Armitage and Freeman for that.
Yeah, they really did they both did a great job with that. And that is one of the more redeeming qualities of the movie and the trilogy as a whole, as you point out.
Honestly, it's such a brilliant. The whole Thorin battling Azog, but especially the death. It's the most brilliant, the best.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah, that was good. I actually I really enjoyed the way that Thorin got him down under the ice. I was like, that was clever.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. But so yeah, I mean that's definitely good. The whole overall battle, yeah, there was a lot going on there that didn't make a ton of sense. One is, okay, they use a lot of semaphores and everything to direct the course of the battle. That makes sense. But really, from that far away, which of the orcs down there, whose job is it to like just kind of watch and wait for the signal to turn right or left? I'm like, I don't know if that's really going to work in that scenario.
Oh, you haven't even seen how Alfred dies.
What's that?
You haven't even seen how Alfred dies, because I think
is that in the extended?
Yeah, he dies in the extended.
Oh, well, that's okay, because gosh, I hated him.
Yeah, but you can see the way he dies. You would mock the heck out of it.
That's entirely possible, but so I guess I'd be happy that he dies, because he was just a horrible human being.
Oh no, same. I'm happy he dies, but at the same time, I even mocked how he dies, because it's like, okay, but that was the one time I actually called out physics.
How did they do it? I'm curious.
Gandalf is going up against this giant troll, and he's trying to get his staff to work, and it's just not working. And Alfred and his woman get up full of coins and whatnot is hiding out on this catapult thing, and he's hiding out on it, and he's peeking out to see what's going on, and then a coin falls out of the breast of his costume and then lands on the little launch.
Oh, the lever that.
Here's the thing: the coin is not anywhere near heavy enough for it to drop.
It was on a hair trigger, I guess.
No, because here's the thing. Okay, now this is the one critique. This is the one moment of physics that actually gets me heated up, like all the other ones have been getting you heat up. Okay, it falls, it spins, it's preparing the land flat. It lands flat. The level's not moving at all, and then suddenly it just drops, and then Alfred launches off into the troll's mouth, and the troll chokes us.
Yeah, you're right. There's no way I would let that slide. There's no way on this earth.
You know,
Middle world wise.
if I can't even let it slide, you know for sure you couldn't let it slide.
There's no way. There is no way. That I probably would have brought that up a while ago, actually. Yeah, there's just no way. Oh.
That and Biffer losing his axe are the two most ridiculous parts of the battle, in my opinion, because it's like
the most ridiculous part of the battle, other than the werewolves, which again open up the tunnels, and then they just, I mean, clearly they're under pretty direct control, and then they just go back under the ground instead of like, hey, how about you go ahead and just like dig underneath where the whole dwarf and elf armies are?
yeah.
Just as a thought. I mean, if they're here, while you guys are here, you want to just nibble on a little bit more rock and take care of this problem for us? That'd be great. Thanks. Love you. Bye. And anyway, okay. So other than that, okay. So the dwarves, they formed their very impressive looking shield wall. I was like, that's pretty badass. Good job, dwarves. And then the elves decide to help them. And the first thing the elves do is jump right past that awesome defensive shield wall. Grant you, it's a cool looking scene, but it's pretty tactically dumb. What you should be doing is standing behind that shield wall and just, I mean, you could have gotten still a pretty cool scene with like a freaking sky full of arrows coming over the dwarves and just like obliterating a ton of the orcs.
Now see.
This is a suggestion.
Now see, considering I've seen the other two I've mentioned, I honestly I can't roll my eyes at that because I've seen more eye roll worthy stuff in the battle.
I mean, don't. This isn't like a physics thing though. It's like a tactics thing. It's like that's just stupid. Again, characters doing dumb things that they should know better than to do really bothers me.
Yeah.
It's like no, you stay behind it. Just shoot arrows. Just we know you guys are freaking magicians with a freaking bow and arrow. Use it, people.
Yeah.
But man, they didn't do that. Oh well, I guess. And then there's that whole thing where Azog's like, oh, they can't fight on two fronts. So instead of sending this other giant army that just showed up from Gundabad into their flank, I'm going to send them into the city. Now, there's an argument to be made that, okay, it's reasonable to assume that, like the women and kids and everything, they're in Dale. So if I go and attack there and threaten them, some significant portion of the army is going to get drawn off into there to go and try to fight that battle. There is a legitimate argument to be made there. But still, if there are any defenders left in the city, you're going and you're actually attacking a potentially fortified position when, with ramparts and gates and everything that you got to get through, when instead you could just crash into the army's flank and catch them in between your two forces. That seems much simpler to me. Just is just one of those things where I'm like, you're doing this the hard way. There's such an easier way to go about this. But then you would have gotten a replay of the battle in Minas Tirith. You wouldn't have gotten a shout out back to that, I guess. And then, of course, and we were talking about some of the other silly aspects that go on in the battle. And really, that's what a lot of this one is, other than, showing Thorin's descent into madness, which I agree is done really well. Although there are, as we were discussing before this, a couple of hammier elements to it.
Disagree. The gold melting, I'll agree, is a little, but Thorin kind of turning into Smaug, I would disagree.
Okay, now we got to talk about what you mean by that, because we were discussing this before we went live, and I was kind of talking about the whole thing where Thorin's like, not one single coin, was just really overacted and kind of hammy, and a flaw in an otherwise pretty good performance. But you had actually kind of an interesting take on it.
Yeah, because that's not the first time they do it either. I'm trying to remember the other moments other than the one right before that, but yeah, you can tell. I mean, obviously, Armitage had to say the lines slower anyway to kind of get that effect too. But you can tell with what they do to the music, but they also, not just Thorin talking, but everything slows down. So like the dwarves walking too, it slows down. It's like Thorin's voice gets deeper and kind of, it starts morphing into how Smaug sounded, if you really pay attention to it. And that's not the first time they do it too. It's if you also pay attention to Armitage's facial expressions too, like right before that happens, he's talking to Bilbo, and I'm trying to remember what Thorin's saying. He's saying something more like how Thorin would say it, but then when it gets to that more paranoid, greedy aspect, he kind of, his head lowers. He looks more like it just, his facial expression changes, and then like the way he talks changes too, and he speaks more and sounds more like Smaug. And I want to say there was another instance prior to that too. It just, there's moments where they try and show Thorin slowly turning into the monster Smaug was.
And I think that's actually probably a pretty good read on it. I still think it came off pretty hokey, but I think you're probably right as far as what they were going for with it. And there's a tiny bit of it that is somewhat odd, but for me, for the most part, I love it so much because it's part of the descent. I can legitimately see that. When you brought that up, I was like, okay, still odd, but okay. And then, although that gets right into exactly what do they mean when they talk about a sickness being on the treasure? Whether it is a legitimate curse or is it just greed is turning him into paranoid, or into this paranoid monster. Is it going to turn him into a dragon? I don't think that. That's just, one could be forgiven for thinking so.
I still stand by the whole like Arkenstone being a more metaphorical thing, but the way the dwarves interpret it is a literal thing.
Okay.
Because again, it's something we've seen throughout history where an object there's something consistent that tends to cause something to regularly happen, and people tend to turn it into like a magical thing or whatnot.
But now one part of the thing with Thorin that we both agree was hokey, that even the man himself agrees is maybe a little hokey, was conversation with Bard. Where they're talking to each other through the hole in the wall, and then at the end of it, Thorin does this thing where he like slides out of the way. It's like, what was that? It was the strangest looking thing.
Awkward slide.
Yes, an awkward slide. It's like,
dude,
what was? God, that was so weird.
That's exactly what they call it in the how it should have ended animated video. They're like they just have like Thorn constantly sliding in and out, and Bard's like, "What? Will you stop that?" And they actually have Thorn say, "Awkward."
Yeah, yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, Armitage himself tweeted it out and was making a joke of the awkward. Oh my god!
I mean, yeah. Right then, Bard should have been like, "Well, this dwarf ain't got all his marbles. we're definitely gonna have a problem because this guy was ever on a rocker. He's off it now.
Yeah,
That's it. That rocker is gone." Yeah. So, and really, I think that. Oh yeah. There was that whole thing where they talk about like the whole point of the strategy of taking on Sauron's strategy of taking on wanting to capture the Lonely Mountain and everything. And the whole thing is it's the key to, control of the Lonely Mountain is key to reopening Angmar and everything. I'm like, wait a minute. When Legolas and Tauriel went on their pointless side quest to Gundabad, and I say it's pointless because they didn't really get back in time to warn anybody in time for anything to happen. There was a little bit, but their warning wasn't significant. Anyway, yeah. To be fair, no, that could be argued. Never mind. I withdraw that. Anyway, it's still a freaking annoying side quest. They go to Gundabad and they're like, "What's beyond Gundabad?" Oh yeah, Angmar. So Gundabad is between the Lonely Mountain and Angmar. Why do you need the Lonely Mountain to reestablish Angmar again? Why? Because you've got a freaking orc stronghold in between already. Your words don't make any sense at all. Could you argue that it's a key to controlling the North as a whole? Yes, you can. You can definitely make that. But you can definitely make that argument. But specifically Angmar? No, that doesn't work at all. It's downright silly. You guys already got to control it. And then, of course, we get to the Battle of Dol Guldur, where, which happens, of course, much earlier, where everybody shows up Avenger style to rescue Gandalf. There are so many issues with that battle sequence. But your thoughts?
I don't really have much thoughts on it other than it happened in the movies, and I'm fine with it. I mean,
okay.
I'm really one way or another. I kind of bummed Gandalf couldn't fight, but I was also kind of shocked at how much Sauron was. Saruman. My bad.
Yeah.
He was like he came in there as if he were almost Legolas in a way. It's like
he did.
Like,
do you require assistance, milady? Yeah, she kind of does. Stop posturing. Let's get to it.
But yeah, I don't really have opinions on that.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure why the Nazgul were there at all. I don't like how they were portrayed so differently than they were in the Lord of the Rings movies. Especially how they were clearly so much more powerful here than they were in the Lord of the Rings movies. Because in that one, on top of Weathertop, Aragorn literally fights off all of them. And here it's like, no, this collection of super wizards and elves. I mean, they got to work for it pretty hard before they actually sufficiently chase them all off. Which, not sure exactly how it is they chase them off, since they're just kind of blink in and out a lot anyway. Since they're wraiths, they're not physical. It's strange, but and it's also not really clear why Galadriel suddenly can't stand. I think you can argue that she gave some power to Gandalf to help heal him a little bit, but she seems to flake out pretty quickly without a whole lot of reason. Also, you guys all could, Elrond and Galadriel both command substantial armies. Why did they show up on their own? Why didn't they bring an army with them? Now, from a filming standpoint, I can understand the reason for that, because you don't want too many massive armies running around in the same movie, fighting at different places. I can understand that. But it's still, in context, it's hard to understand exactly why not. Or at least bring a contingent along with you. And then the thing that really annoys me about this, Galadriel. Why did they bring back scary Galadriel from the Lord of the Rings movies? The one who was like, this is what I would look like. This is what would happen if I were to take the ring and claim it for myself. They brought that version of Galadriel back to beat off Sauron. And they actually upped the ante. She didn't just look kind of green, scary, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn. She looked like something that climbed out of Davy Jones's locker. Like, that was such a horrible choice, inconsistent with the movies that had come before, too. Because it's like, no, this is a representation of evil Galadriel. Like what Galadriel would look like if she claimed the ring for herself and fell under its corrosive spell, if she became the new Dark Lord. So why does she have to go new Dark Lord to take down the actual Dark Lord? This makes no sense at all. This actually completely subverts everything they've done with the character of Galadriel, and actually subverts much of the whole worldview of the films. Because it's actually saying, nope, go evil to defeat evil. That's the only way you'll get enough power to take down the bad guy, which is utterly contrary, not just to Tolkien and his works and his whole worldview, but to the way they've actually successfully portrayed that worldview for the most part in the movies. It's like, that was, honestly, that may be the single worst thing they've done out of all 6 movies, is going evil version of Galadriel to chase off Sauron. It's like, because it's so utterly contrary to everything out of all 6 movies. Yeah.
Now might be the bad time to say I actually thought that part was kind of cool.
Some people did, because Galadriel just opened up a can. Okay, yeah, she did, but look at the symbolism of everything of what was going on, how she opened up said can. And again, compare and contrast with her showing that version of herself in the Lord of the Rings movies.
To be fair, I don't remember that from the Lord of the Rings movies, and I don't remember how she opened up that can of burps.
Well, she never opened up a can in Fellowship. She just shows us, like, this is it's that scene in Lothlorien where Frodo looks in. Frodo and Sam, they look into her mirror, the Galadriel's mirror. She pours the water into the thing, and
I remember that scene. I just don't remember seeing evil Galadriel.
Okay, yeah. Frodo's like, here, why don't you take it? She's like, you offer to me freely.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to take it, so on and so forth. That instead of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen. And goes on this whole little monologue about what it would be like if she were to, take the ring that Frodo's freely offering. Mm-hmm. And she gets all like green, dark and green and scary looking. And they were calling back to that at Dol Guldur, and it's like, no, No, that is literally the worst filmmaking decision they could possibly have made out of that whole thing. It's like, let's other than, actually, it almost would have worked better if they made Saruman the one who drove off Sauron in a way. Because it could have been like, this was the plan all along, that if the White Council showed up, he would just beat a hasty retreat, which is kind of the way, again, it's portrayed in the book, that like he didn't really run, it was a feint. It was like, it's like, nah, I don't need the big fight right now. I'm gonna go ahead and withdraw and let them think I'm defeated. is the way it's portrayed in the book, and they could have done that in the movie too, but they didn't. They made it look like Galadriel really did successfully chase him off of her own power by going evil. Again, completely and utterly contrary to the worldview of all the movies. It just does not fit. They are trying to put a square peg in a round hole there. I think I'm pretty much tapped out.
Yeah.
I was happy to see Bilbo going back home to Bag End and seeing the auction.
Yes.
I was quite happy they included that.
And the extended edition, they actually before Bilbo goes home, they actually show the I don't know if it's in the theatrical one, but they actually showed the funeral of the three dwarves.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think that was in the theatrical. And the theatrical, he actually leaves before the funeral, and that's about it.
It's so sad because like Bilbo's there and all the dwarves are there and they're walking around like because they have the dwarves laid down on these concrete slabs to and they're all walking around and they're all crying. Bilbo's especially like breaking down when he's next to the door.
See, I would have liked to have seen that. I wish they would. I wish that would have been in the theatrical. I really do.
I'll find the scene for you on YouTube and send it to you.
Okay.
So sad. It gosh dang it. And then the dwarves bid farewell to Bilbo. It's so bad.
It is. And for those who are watching, the reason I'm laughing right now is because Krystle said she wasn't going to cry on the podcast.
I'm not going to cry.
She's fighting it. You can tell. No shame, because I will own that with the Thorin death scene. It's like, yeah, you get a little watery. I am a total sucker for scenes like that. I'm not gonna lie. You get scenes like that, like the dramatic death scene, like with Thorin and Bilbo, or anything like where it's some small band of people going up against impossible odds. You got me. I am putty in your hands.
That scene is just done so perfectly. The performance, the monologue, the Bilbo trying to have Thorin see the eagles coming in, and because he doesn't want to admit that Thorin's
fight it, girl, fight it. Yeah.
I'd be losing if you had this song from the end credits playing, because oh man, that song gets me every time. No.
I'm teasing. I'm not gonna do that to you.
Good. Or else I'll find you. I'll hunt you down.
It wouldn't be hard. You already know at least which side of the state I live on. So.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have reminded you of that. Anyway.
Probably should tell Devil that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true. But anyway, yeah. So it pretty much, I think, brings us to the end. Final thoughts. Clearly, there were a lot of things I did not like in these movies, and at the end, I don't think they measure up. as I said, this is only the second time I've watched them, and I've watched the Lord of the Rings movies numerous times. So yeah, they didn't measure up. I'm not sure exactly all the reasons why. I think part of it might have just been, I think it's very clear actually that Peter Jackson's heart wasn't really in it the way it was with the Lord of the Rings movies. He sort of just accepted it as his duty. When Guillermo del Toro dropped out, it's kind of like Warner Brothers came to him and was like, would you please? Pretty please? We'll give you money. He said, fine. And just took it on and rolled with it on a much tighter deadline than he had originally had. So, yeah, just not up to snuff, not something that I have ever really felt a great desire to watch again until we decided we were going to have this debate. Again, I will freely acknowledge there is much that is good in them. Performances are by and large very good. My issue is with a lot of the narrative choices, a lot of choices of the director and the writers, and just a lot of things that didn't make sense. It isn't even so much changes from the book, though I admit, again, still my opinion is softened a little bit on the second viewing, believe it or not. Believe it or not, I actually hate them less. But I still would not count myself a fan, even granting that the first one is all right on its own. Your final thoughts?
Well, actually, first, it's actually the reverse for me. I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies twice.
Okay.
And The Hobbit multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah, Lucas in the chat likes to give me crap because I love the side story more than the main story. They're their own stories, first off. Anyway. No, I mean, this past time watching them again, I've gotten a clearer idea of where they really falter. But for me, the good still outweigh the bad. I still think the very first one is a masterpiece. I mean, it's perfectly imperfect. It's my favorite.
Perfectly imperfect. Oh my gosh, that's okay. I'm just gonna let that go without any further comments.
That's the best way I could word it right now without it being a long, drawn-out sentence. Anyway, first one, my favorite, perfect. Next two, they falter more. But I still believe and hold true that the main thing that is strong in all three of them is the character arcs, especially Thorne's and Bilbo's. Yeah, that's pretty much brilliant performances. That Thorne's death is probably the best scene.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you that.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me there's echo. Huh. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. We've gone a little back and forth. I think Krystle definitely gave some good interpretations that helped me see a couple scenes a little bit differently. That they do soften my opinion just a little bit. Where it's like, okay, I can at least see where you're coming from. I don't know if I agree, but okay, it's defensible. Certain choices here and there.
Same for Ginger with me.
Yes, my Cinema Sins level of nitpickiness is, as I told you, I am that guy.
Dude, you keep this up, I'm just gonna have to start calling you Jeremy, and I really don't want to do that.
Well, we probably won't have too many more movie debates. So, because I used to be the guy that no one wanted to watch a movie with, because I would do it while I was watching the movie. That's stupid. That doesn't work. Why are you doing this? I was that person. I learned to tone it down. I learned to wait until after the movie at the very least. So after a movie, you might have to listen to a half-hour rant about said movie, but at least I don't ruin it while you're watching it.
Yeah. Well, in this case, we went on for 3 hours, 1 hour per movie.
We did. That was completely unintended. I actually thought we would get through the whole thing in an hour, to be honest.
I have my doubts.
Well, your doubts were well founded.
like half an hour in, I start thinking, Ginger just keeps coming up with more criticisms, even though he keeps saying he doesn't have many left. I don't think we're gonna get this done.
That is entirely accurate. Yeah, I didn't even realize how much time had passed until I noticed. It's like, oh my gosh, we're like 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
It's like, and by golly, I've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah. It was just so funny because it's like I only really have this one real criticism, and then you finish that criticism, and then it's like.
And then I just kept thinking
I
of
only
more.
really have 3 criticisms with it, and it's like.
Yeah.
You just said.
No, the thing is, it's odd because, like I said, my criticisms with the first one, while apparently more numerous than I thought, are relatively speaking nitpicks.
Yeah.
As opposed to just all of the various dumb things that almost every character is doing throughout the other 2 movies, or just things that don't make sense, things that are flat out annoying. I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't even get to the whole Thranduil banishing Tariel thing. Yeah, she like her and Thranduil have an argument, and she takes off for a little, go blow off steam out in the forest, and then for other reasons, Thranduil is like, bar the door, seal the gates, yada yada yada. We're going in full on isolation mode here, and Tariel's already gone. Legolas goes after her, and that's when they get to Lake Town and everything and wade through the army of orcs. And then in Battle of 5 Armies, it's like, no, you're banished. Why? She didn't know about that order. She was already gone. She didn't disobey an order. She was already out the door, people. That was just dumb. And there were other things with Thranduil and everything. I was like, why did he decide he's going to leave the battle? What does he think is going to be accomplished? And why is he so obsessed with that necklace? I can understand why he's pissed that Thor withheld it from him. I can understand that. But what is it? Why is it so...
Maybe that's the elf version of an Arkenstone. Because in ways, Thranduil does exhibit the same behavior as Thorn, except not as extreme.
Now, there could be a reason for that. If that necklace was the Nauglamir, which was a necklace that the dwarves made for Thingol, who was this is Silmarillion material. And Thranduil and Thingol are very much the same. There are a lot of parallels between those 2 characters, including kind of an obsession with treasure, including having an underground kingdom, so on and so forth. And how, although Thranduil's trajectory winds up being the opposite of Thingol's, Thingol becomes a bigger jerk with time. And the dwarves made that necklace for him, embedding a Silmaril in it. A Silmaril is one of 3, let's just call them magical jewels made by Feanor, one of the original elves, and he's essentially the biggest, smartest, strongest, biggest badass that ever there was, and he was also a raging dick. But that's beside the point. Now, what's interesting about that in relation to this, for a while in the early drafts, the Arkenstone was a Silmaril. Now, the way it shook out in the end, no, it was just a big shiny rock. But that's one of the things that had people who are familiar with the Silmarillion and everything, it's really scratching their heads with the movie's portrayal of the Arkenstone, because with the light and everything, anyone who's familiar with the Silmarillion was thinking Silmaril. Anyone who's read that should have been thinking, wait a minute, is that where they're going with this in the movie? Are they making the Arkansas Silmaril? And that, again, that gets into the whole thing of how certain people would have been looking at the interpretation of it. And I am fully certain that Jackson and Philippa Boyens, if I pronounce the name correctly, and the other writer of the big three, I can't remember who it is. I know they're fully aware of that. I'm positive they are fully aware that Tolkien was considering making the Arkansas Silmaril at some point in time, and they intentionally went that direction with it. So it made the interpretation probably harder for someone who's familiar with Tolkien than it did for someone who isn't. Just knowing what they're doing with it. So anyway, that's a bit of an aside, and it does show a direction that they could have gone, that they didn't, that they almost went, but chose not to. Yeah, and they gave a name to that necklace in the movies. I can't remember what it is, but it wasn't the Nauglamir, which I was really hoping that they would go that route, at least called that the Nauglamir, because it had gotten remade. Initially, the dwarves just made it. It was just an awesome shiny necklace, but when Thingol found himself in possession of the Silmaril, he had them remake it with the Silmaril embedded in it. They could have just gone, this is the version saying Silmaril or something like that. But whatever. Again, that's a bit of a tangent here. That is just, again, illustrates certain things that they could have done, that they hinted at, but weren't really capitalized on. That I think had it been capitalized on or not done at all, again, kind of like Bjorn, he's sort of the Tom Bombadil of The Hobbit. Like, you could have just cut him out and it wouldn't really have mattered much to the overall story. So anyway, with that tangent, I think we can call it wrapped up. You've got both of our thoughts on the films. Decide for yourselves, people. Go back and rewatch it if you need to. And let us know what's your thoughts. Hobbit movies, good or bad. Leave it in the comments, send it on Twitter. Go ahead and, you know what, if you've got some more in-depth thoughts that are more than 280 characters long, feel free to email us at fightingvoid@gmail.com. And of course, you can tweet us at Fighting Void on the Twitters. And of course, find us on the YouTube as well. So go ahead and Krystle, do you have any final thoughts?
I already said my piece.
You have said your piece, and you've got your locked necklace. So when you come up to the dwarf door, you'll know to wait for the moonlight.
Yes.
And with
I wait twice.
That's right. And with that, everybody, thanks for tuning in and keep fighting the good fight. We will see you next time.